Can we all stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a few announcements tonight, just some housekeeping things. Clerk Perillo, would you like to lead that?
Yes, thank you. The first announcement is that the village offices will be closed on February 17th, 2025, in honor of President's Day. The next upcoming Village Board of Trustees meeting will be the February work session meeting, which will begin at 5:00 p.m. on February 12th, 2025. The tentative tax assessment roll will be available for inspection on February 1st, and grievance day will be conducted from 3 to 7 p.m. on February 18th.
Thank you. Officer John from the 6th Precinct is here for us tonight with an update. Yes, please, come on up over here for you. Yep.
All right. Hey.
Welcome.
How's everybody doing? Hey, how are you? Hey, good evening, everyone. Okay, good evening. All right, so I'm going to cover a time period of, going to review some stats. Time period of December 18th to January 29th, 2024. I'm going to cover that same time period for 2025, right, from 24 to 25. So aggravated harassments, we stayed at 1 for both time periods. Of that 1 aggravated harassment, the individual refused to press any criminal charges. We had no assaults. We had no burglaries. We had 1 criminal mischief, which is still under investigation. We had 4 harassments, which brought us down from, we had 5 last time period. We had 4 this time period. 3 of those, the individuals refused to press any criminal charges, and 1 is still under investigation. We had 11 larcenies last time period compared to this one at 4. And all 4 individuals refused to press any criminal charges for those larcenies. That was it. So we saw a total of 32 criminal incidents last time period compared to only 25 for this time period. But let me just back up a minute because I skipped the total calls for service. Our total calls for service for the Port Jefferson Village area for that month time period was 428 last year compared to 423 this time. 80 cases were exactly the same. These are our medical calls, 141 for both. We saw a very minimal rise. We went up from 396 to 398 for our total non-criminal calls. Okay, those would be disturbances, check on the welfares, alarms, those sort of things. Okay. We had 25 motor vehicle accidents. We had no overdoses. And we had a total of 8 arrests. Compared to last time period, we only had 7. That's about it with that. Anybody have any questions related to any of that? Anything? No? Just want to make a couple of announcements. The 6th Precinct Community Meeting. We have it every month at the 6th Precinct. This one is going to be Tuesday, February 11th at 10 a.m. So if you'd like to come down and hear about what's going on throughout the precinct outside of Port Jefferson Village, feel free to come on down. It's at the 6th Precinct. It's Tuesday, February 11th at 10 a.m. And I know in the past we've had some individuals asking about speeding, right, in the village.
Correct.
And statistics on that. So finally, we have a public-facing dashboard online. It's on suffolkpd.org. If you go online to suffolkpd.org, you can go to the Transparency Hub. And there you'll find all the data and information related to traffic stops and whatnot. So I can only get as whatever they put up there, right? This is ran by the department. So the last information that was provided was third quarter of 2024. So in Port Jefferson Village, during that third quarter, there was 29 speeding tickets issued, right, during that time period. But this is something that the public can also go ahead and take a look at themselves, because I know we've had an individual here a few times ask me about that. So moving forward, we can let them know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you put that on your social media to alert people to the fact that it's available?
We have, and we'll continue to do that, but it's on the SuffolkPD.org website.
Okay.
Okay, and I think you can find it through the county website as well. All right. Anybody have any questions or any complaints, anything they want to talk about? Sunday's football game or anything?
You have jurisdiction over those, did they call 911 on that call?
No. Anything? Anything?
I have one comment,
Sure.
really, just an observation. I live in Harbor Hills, and I've seen, not just in the village, but also up in our sort of remote area,
Yeah.
increased police presence. So
Okay,
thank
good.
you for that.
Yeah, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, through some more recent times, the inspector, I know, was utilizing some of our resources to be put up here in Port Jeff, so we could have more of a presence up here. And we did create some patrol checks in the area that will bring officers to those areas. So if you have a problem in your community or anywhere that you live, feel free to contact our office at 631-854-8689. That's the COPE office. We could discuss what kind of issue you're having, and with that, we'll be able to enter a patrol check that could bring officers to the location in need, okay? So please feel free to give us a call, 631-854-8689, and that's the 6th Precinct COPE office.
Or 911 if it's an emergency?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay.
You have a question?
Yes, please.
Oh, great.
Brenda Batter, 119.
Oh,
Brenda Batter.
Hold on, Fred.
Brenda Batter, 119 Oakwood Road. I recently heard that we could text 911. Is that true?
Oh, that's news to me.
Where's Kyle?
That's news to me. We should try it. Yeah,
Trustee Hill, we have a public safety committee
Yeah.
here once a month, meets once a month. We'd love to have him come along and say hi to us.
Yeah.
But didn't we learn that last week, Trustee Hill? Or last time? Okay, so I knew we could text code.
Mike, Kyle, Mike.
So I was told we can now text code enforcement, which I have, and they responded quickly, and they were fantastic. But then we're also,
About 911. I
Yeah.
haven't heard that. I'll find out.
Awesome.
And I'll spread the word back to the mayor, so this way you guys could maybe post it somewhere on your website, and we'll do the same as well.
perfect.
So, but this is the first I'm hearing of it.
That's
So
okay.
thanks for bringing it
Yeah.
to my attention.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Anyone else? No? Good? Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Now we have a presentation from our auditors, led by Ali Battaglia of R.S. Abrams. Treasurer Gafka, would you like to introduce Ali and the auditors for the crowd?
Thank you, Mayor. So in July of 2024, the village took the step to go out to RFP for new auditing services after using a previous auditing firm for nearly a decade. We had a signed contract in August with R.S. Abrams. They started passing information back and forth, giving them the required documents that they need to be able to do their job. They came in at the end of October to do their field work. It was a very good experience. It was great to meet the team. For the month of November, we went back and forth on any additional documentation that may have been required, provided it so that they could continue to develop the draft financials, which were eventually created towards the end of December. And then from that point in time, just a review of the draft financials, and then to the point where we now have a final product, which is being presented tonight. And with that, this want to thank Allie for coming tonight and giving this presentation.
Now, Ally, were you here every day, those auditing visits? Were you part of the team? You led the team?
Yes, I was here.
All right, thank you.
Yes. So it's nice to meet everybody. I did meet with the Budget and Finance Committee, and we did go into a lengthy detail of the financial statements. So, and I appreciate that by the Audit Committee. So tonight, I just want to go over some of the highlights that we discussed, so I don't have to go into each and every detail, but just wanted to provide you with an overview. So the first is the review of the audit. So we did issue opinions on our financial statements. There's different opinion units. So all the governmental funds, which is the general fund, community development fund, country club, and capital projects, all got an unmodified opinion, which in auditor's language means a clean opinion. So it is the best opinion you can have for the financial statements. However, for the governmental activities, which is where we do accrual basis, we had to give an adverse opinion due to the fact that the village doesn't have records of capital assets. That is actually one of the management letter comments. It's a material weakness. But the village is has contracted with a company. Did have a meeting with the appraisal company to make sure that we get this implemented for the fiscal year ending 5/31/25. So I'm hoping by the time we come back, this will be done for next year. The business office was very cooperative. It's always difficult sometimes the first year trying to get all the records, but I have to thank Stephen. He was amazing through the whole entire process. Anything we asked for, me and my team, he got back to us within the next day, within that day. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So this is the material weakness that we had. It's on the capital assets. The prior year auditor also had this as a material weakness in the past. So like I said, I'm hoping by the 25 fiscal year end, this will go away. The next is the management letter itself. So we did have a couple of findings to help the village improve their internal controls. The first is the deferred revenue. It was basically an accounting error that was brought to our attention, that anything that's related to fiscal year 2025 was not deferred. It was basically put into revenue. And accounting treatments, you should defer that because it's for the next fiscal year. So Stephen did
Just to clarify, 2025 and 2024, the fiscal years begin and end on what date?
So it's June 1st to 5/31/24.
So June 1st, 2023.
To 5/31/24 is the year that we're looking at.
And the budget that we were talking about was adopted in April of 2023, correct? Am I wrong? Or May,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So prior, not for anything, just so anyone that's watching this understands, we're talking about 2023 to 2024.
Correct.
June 1st, 2023 to
5/31/24.
March 31st, 2024. Okay.
Correct. So Stephen did a lot of work on this with the deferred revenue. He analyzed it to make sure that we did correct it. So it is going to be fine going forward, but we did take a big hit in the year. So if you want to, I guess, elaborate afterwards. We also noted that you do have a country club fund, and the way the prior auditors accounted for it, we disagree and should be a proprietary fund. There was numerous conversations, so we're waiting for OSC guidance. So this is in work, so we wanted to issue the financial statements and not hold up the 5/31/24. So if it has to be implemented, we will implement it for 24/25. And Stephen and I are going to have long talks and discussions on how we can go and implement.
Oh,
that
yes,
for
we
the
will.
next year. Yep.
So proprietary fund, how do you
So
describe
basically,
that?
it's more like a business-like. So it's different methods of accounting. So it would be full accrual basis. So it's different than your governmental funds, which is on modified accrual. Modified accrual is more short-term in nature. You just basically pay as you go. Where accrual basis, you have to basically put on all your capital assets, all your long-term liabilities. So it's just a different method of accounting.
Would it be safe to say that it more closely resembles something like a freestanding business in
Correct.
terms
Yes,
of the
yes, it's
accounting
almost, yes.
necessary?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
thanks.
Yes.
So is it currently operating like that, or is it just in name only, or?
So it's operating basically because it's only membership fees that is basically the source of revenue, which is
Or one
basically-
source of
right,
revenue?
Revenue, right.
But
So,
it's self-sustaining?
correct. So that's why we're waiting, just to make sure that we have the proper guidance before we make this big decision to.
The reason,
implement it.
I think it bears highlighting that the reason this is as big a decision as it is there are a lot of moving parts. So it is currently, there are accounts that are being currently reflected in a certain way, and the work necessary to reflect it in the new way, to make it a, more like, I don't know, commercial GAAP reporting, is not insignificant. So we want to be deliberate about it. We want to understand everything that needs to change before any changes are made, and use that as an input to the timing of that. When can we have that done by? Are we going to do it for this fiscal, so fiscal 24, fiscal 25, or are we going to incorporate it into the budget work that we're moving into? So.
Yep, yes, correct, thank you.
And how do we separate our assets? Do we separate the assets that are physically located on that campus?
So that's another.
Which they are right now.
Undertaking, right,
Mhm.
exactly. So there's like you said, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot more, it's different financials within the financials. There's a statement of cash flows. There's a lot more schedules that go into this.
We
so.
might need a consultant.
So this, so that's to be discussed. The next one was just employment contracts, just for any bargaining units. Basically, just have to have a separate, just to outline all the days that they're entitled to, for if they have any unused sick time or anything like that. So there's a policy, but there's not an actual. That's what I was told, right? There's a policy, but not an actual contract.
We mean the non-bargaining unit members. There's,
Oh, the
that's what we're
management?
referring to, yes.
Okay.
Okay. You can. Another letter that we did issue, we're required by our auditing standards, is called a board governance letter, to let the board know that we do follow government auditing standards. I'm happy to report there were no new accounting policies. The village has to follow GASB, which is Government Accounting Standards Board, and they issue all these statements that the villages have to abide by. So there were none for this year, so we got a break on that. There's also estimates utilized within the financial statements, especially with your other actuaries, so for your pensions, your retirees' health insurance, for the OPEB, compensated absences. So we just have to we're required to let the board know. I'm happy to report there were no disagreements. There was no difficulties encountered. Like I said, we got all the information that we needed. I definitely had a lot of conversations with Steve, and phone calls, or even meeting here, just to discuss, to make sure that we were correct with all the he did a lot of adjusting journal entries before we came, just to make sure we were all on the same page. And like I said, so corrected misstatements. Stephen did a great job. We did have a couple of closing entries just to correct. I think some was just with the accounting software, that it was just the way it was running into fund balance. We had to reclass it either to revenue or expense. We did obtain a management representation letter, so that lets us, that was signed by the village, so that we can go final with these financial statements. This is some of the financial highlights. This is right out of our financial statement. So this is the governmental funds. This is your modified accrual basis. So you have your general fund, your country club, and your capital projects fund. The general fund total fund balance did decrease, and that was based on the deferred revenue. That was a part of it that we did implement to correct that error. And also there was expenditures exceeded revenues. And then there was also reclassing the CHIP money, right, into the capital projects fund.
So help
those
us
two.
understand that a little bit.
Sure. So the first one was the deferred revenue. That was for the property taxes, right, in the general fund. Oh, rec. Okay, so it was for the recreation. So basically, that was the deferred revenue. Again, collecting monies in advance for the next fiscal year has to be deferred, not in part of revenue. So that was part of it. There was also revenue that belonged that was related to the capital projects that we had to move over from the general fund to the capital projects. Well, you did that, but that was one of your journal entries, but that was one of them. And then just overall, the expenditures exceeding the revenues.
there was one additional item. There was a fund balance software issue that needed to be corrected, where the fund balance had been overstated for the last 4 years because of an error with the software. Wasn't coded correctly. So once that got corrected, it reduced the fund balance in general by $389,000.
And it just slid through,
It just wasn't set up right when
cracks.
Edmunds was created. Yeah.
it just never,
And it was never corrected.
and the CHIPS, I don't understand that.
So CHIPS is your Consolidated Highway Improvement Program money. So it's grant funds that the state gives you to pave your roads. If you budget for the project in general, then you can record the revenue and budget for that in general. But the
General
village.
fund.
General fund.
Mhm.
The village does their projects, their main capital projects, in our capital fund. So if you budget the revenue, it must be budgeted in the capital fund. It can't be budgeted in general, because then it's really being used as a way to keep your budget flat on an adopted budget basis rather than, and not cutting, anywhere else. It's a way to keep it quasi-inflated.
So that was just, how much money was that?
It
It
was
was
300.
roughly 340,000.
Okay. We're
That's
not going to
just
do that
the-
again.
That one item, right? It aggregates to a somewhat larger amount.
And then the country club, the reason for that decrease was the accounting error that we had first alluded to, that was in the management letter of deferring the monies for the membership fees, because it was collected for the next fiscal year again, making sure that it was accounted for in the proper fiscal year that it's supposed to be.
Said another way, it was actually spent in the wrong year, right? So we collected it for next year, but we spent it in this year. I mean, going
Or we
backwards.
balanced the budget using next year's revenue.
Right, so basically, yes, it was in revenue, right, and should have
We,
been.
I say we, I say it was, yeah. That's what happened. And then I think this was through the good work of Treasurer Gafka, it was corrected, right?
Correct. Yes. That's one of the
The
major
that
major
wasn't
items that he spoke to me
very
about.
controversial too, because you can imagine people thought money was in the account. Why are you telling us there's no money in the account when we were told
Right.
3 days ago that there's money in the account because it's actually next year's budget, which it was never considered that until the treasurer came in and fixed it. Okay.
Going back to the CHIPS, if you had to put it into the capital account, shouldn't you have reduced the revenue in the general fund too? So it would have been a wash, right?
So it never got recorded to general in '24. When it came in, I recorded
Okay.
and fixed the budget and put it into capital.
But when the
it
budget
left-
was put together, it was,
It was in general. It was budgeted for general, but which we never received in general.
thank you.
When do we use that CHIPS money?
You spend the money
In
first,
September?
July.
The
We s-
following,
we
that
spend it-
year?
Yeah,
So 23.
we do the project in July,
Uh-huh.
and then the money comes in. Typically, there's 4 reporting periods, but it's usually December for the village. We get the CHIPS reimbursement.
Okay. Sorry, Ally.
No, you're fine. No, please ask. The Capital Projects Fund, this was also, I know you also had another accounting firm come in and basically look at all your capital projects to make sure that everything was in order. And it was all the analysis done by the accounting firm, because I guess there was deficits in the fund balance in some of the account projects. So they did the whole analysis work. Also, you utilized 500,000 of fund balance for a capital project?
For the country club.
Oh, that was the country club, sorry. That was my note for, okay, correct. That was also part of the country club, sorry. I thought it was under the capital. Okay. Also, there was an accounting treatment for another adjusting journal entry was for the bonds. So the bonds anticipation notes, we discussed at length. Basically, there's a GASB statement number 62, where if you have a ban that payable, that it is going to get rolled over after year end, but before you issue your financial statements, then that GASB makes it that you take it in as revenue, as a revenue source. So that was a different accounting treatment that we also corrected in the Capital Projects Fund.
Do you have anything to add to that, Stephen?
It's a little confusing because basically what happens is that if you don't disclose this future borrowing and it's not on your financial statements, and you do it after year end, you have to then record it as revenue. The only issue that we have, and I've discussed this with the auditors, is that we're expecting some grant funds to come in this fiscal year that are going to offset that. So some of that that 2.3 million that had to be adjusted is not going to end up as revenue in that form. It's going to change because we're going to get grant funds, and then we're going to have to go out for a debt borrowing. But so it's showing $397,000 deficit as the fund balance, but our actual balance sheet doesn't take that 2.3 into account because we can't actually post that journal entry. It's a financial statement, state requirement to have that.
Okay.
But it will correct in 25 and
Okay.
catch up.
You could skip the next slide, because that's all the words that I discussed over. Yep, okay. So now this is just a nice roll forward of your unassigned fund balance for the general fund. You started off the year for 2.3 million. You had revenues and other financing sources under budget of 882,000, and that was primarily in the real estate property taxes, non-property taxes, departmental income, fines and forfeitures, miscellaneous revenues, and state aid items. And then the expenditures, other financing uses and encumbrances under budget of 124,000 was basically in 243,000 was in transportation, 54,000 was in home and community services, 49,000 in culture and recreation. And then you end up with your closing fund balance of the 1.5. The next is just a review. It's just a comparative from year to year, from the 23 fiscal year to the 24 fiscal year for your revenues and expenditures. And then we can just go right to because we have a detail on why. So the revenues in the general fund increased. Real property taxes increased based on the tax levy in accordance with the voter-approved budget for the 23-24 fiscal year. Departmental income increased due to increase in parking meter rates, increase in safety inspection fees received, and contractual increases for concessions. And then use in money and property increased due to the interest rates that they were very high, so you got extra interest income this year. Expenditures in the general fund increased compared to the prior year. General government support increased due to increase in technology expenditures and an increase in insurance rates. Public safety increased due to new employees hired, contractual increases, and increases in equipment-related expenditures. Home and community services increased due to increase in major repairs and new employees hired. Employee benefits due to higher premium costs for medical insurance and higher pension contributions for the employees' retirement system. And then debt service increased as a result of the repayments of the current maturity of the bonds and the lease liability debt. Okay, and then this, we basically discussed, this is why the expenditures were greater than the revenues in that fiscal year. GASB statement number 101, compensated absences. That's the new GASB that's going to be issued this year. So we're waiting for the Office of the State Comptroller to come out with their bulletin of the guidance of how to implement this. And once they do, we will have an email blast, but I also will have a conversation with you in our entrance conference and discuss how we're going to implement this. Okay. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
You mean in addition to the ones that we've been asking all
Yeah,
along?
that's okay.
I just want to, this is sort of new, I think, to this process. This hasn't happened before, where the Board of Trustees was given the opportunity to have the report in advance, which you guys received it a couple of days ago, or yesterday, or today. I don't know when Stephen sent it to you. But this, pardon me? Monday. So you had a chance to take a look at it. It's very complicated. It's no mystery, but just everything that's going into we're following the guidelines of the state controller by doing everything that we're doing right now. It's a requirement. These financials will be posted to the website. If you have any questions now or ever, the treasurer is always open to taking the board members through it And we're getting started with the budgeting season right now, so the treasurer will be sitting down with all the department heads. Any of the trustees that wish to participate in those conversations are certainly welcome to, no matter what the department. I appreciate your time and the treasurer for all the work. Really appreciate the audit committee, budget and finance, and the commissioner of finance, Trustee Ugrinsky, for taking this through. I really felt confident that the product that we were getting and the work that we were getting was good quality and reliable, and I really appreciate it. And I think our residents should feel confident in the work that was done here too. So thank you.
So I have a question. First of all, kudos to Stephen. I know dealing with the auditors.
He has a little presentation to
Takes you-
give too after this, so yeah, sorry
Oh,
to
okay.
interrupt, but
So first of all, I know dealing with the auditors, takes you away from your regular job. So I appreciate all the work, all the hard work that you put in getting this together. So a budget our size, what would be a recommended fund balance?
I think the fund balance right now is fine.
That's a good- okay.
Yeah, I think you're okay where you are.
How about contingency? What's the recommended contingency that we should carry?
I think it's between like 2 to 3%, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
like,
New
it's
York
like,
State
I know, it's
5 to 14, I think, but
yeah.
I was
so
just
I'm
asking, what do you
but
see
sometimes,
as a
yeah,
best
they all-
practice?
You can never tell what they're gonna come back at.
Mm.
They say one thing, so I would say anywhere between or even like 3 to 5.
Okay.
okay. Thank you, Alexandra.
We have a question? Questions?
Sure, come on up. It's not really a public hearing, but it's all right. No.
My name's Gail Sternberger, Wasco Drive, Port Jefferson. It sounds like we're spending money in advance am I correct in understanding it? The
We're
budget-
correcting that.
I know we're correcting that. I was wondering, how long has that been going on?
So we're the first year auditors, and I guess it's been going on for a while because Stephen just corrected it this year, so it's probably many years.
So,
I
to address, what we're talking about are two different things. We receive revenue and cash when we bill the memberships if we're talking about the country club specifically. And 83% of that memberships that we take in belong to the following fiscal year because that's when the expenses that are incurred happen.
Okay.
So that, we're not taking future expenses and spending it early. But really what it means is that revenue that we take in, most of it belongs to the following fiscal year because that's when the expenses happen that money is paying for. The grounds crew, all of the irrigation, all of that. That comes from your membership dues and your, the
But
assessment.
that's not good accounting to do it that way. That's not really
No,
good
that's why
practice.
you have to match revenues with expenses and whatever fiscal year it's supposed to be in.
Okay, I just wanted to know if this was like a pattern that we've done to
This-
always look better.
This is the first time that since in the accounting records that I could find going back to 2002 that the money was deferred
Okay.
properly.
Okay, thank you.
Matthew Franco, 5 Avon Drive, Port Jefferson. I just have one question. When it comes to a contingency fund for the golf course or the capital reserve fund, what is the standard that we should have, like percentage-wise? I know that it's been discussed back and forth. I was just curious about it.
Yeah, that's why I was saying 2 to 4%, but I know they're saying it's low, so that's
So
it.
So your recommendation is 2 to 4%, but New York State is saying it should be more?
They recommend 5 to 14%.
14%.
Right.
Now, if we get to 3% in a contingency fund, I'll be really excited.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen, you want to?
Thank you, Ally.
I want you to get up. Is that a problem? Okay. You're in the hot seat.
Actually, I'm out of the hot seat, right?
No.
Standing.
Trying to get out of the hot seat.
Just give me 1 second. All right, thank you all for being here. Really in response to the management letter that the auditors developed, we developed a corrective action plan, some of which is already we've talked about is being implemented, but also wanted to touch on what we're doing and how we're trying to correct the issues that are represented by the management letter. So just want to talk about a material weakness. It's a deficiency in your internal control that can cause a misstatement of your finances. Specifically with the capital assets, if you don't have a fixed asset report and the village hasn't had it updated since 2015, there is no formal record of this fixed asset report. It prevents you from having confidence in your net assets and your total net position as a village. You don't know what your land, your buildings, your equipment's all worth. That's why we took the step to contract out with Witham Brown and Smith, which is our valuation company. I'm in constant contact with them in order to try and rectify that. So, I just kind of jumped ahead a little bit. But so the finding was that the capital assets, we don't have a fixed record of our capital assets. So in response, the village contracted out in June. We signed the contract and began the process with Witham, Smith, and Brown to perform this capital asset valuation. They were on site for the third week of November. They went to every site. They dealt with the country club. They looked at every piece of equipment, every building. They're combing through land records. They're going through 20 years of our audit reports to see what the capital assets were recorded 20 years ago. And they're going to be talking with the assessor to look at our land values to really come up with a number that the village can feel confident in. It will be broken out between the general fund and what we know belongs to the country club, which will help one of the following slides in that process.
Just real quick, so did you just pick Witham, Smith, and Brown, or what was the process for finding this company?
That's a great question, Mayor. We went out to RFP. We received a variety of responses, of which the clerk Perillo, and myself sat through, and we went through all of the responses to come up with, who seems to be the most responsive and at the lowest price for the village, and it came into just under $15,000.
Clerk Perillo, can I ask you just to go through that RFP process real quick so we're understanding of the scope and the significance of what it takes to bring a consultant into the village to do some work for the village?
So step one is, of course, that the board has to authorize such an RFP or an RFQ, which is a request for quotations or other expressions. And then, of course, it has to be noticed. Normally, we would notice, of course, we notice in our local newspaper, but I have also noticed in the New York State Contract Reporter, which gives us a much broader audience, and therefore we get a lot more responses than we have. Once those responses are received, then the treasurer and myself in this case, or the responsible department head and myself, and sometimes legal counsel, need to review all the proposals to ensure that they are properly responding to what was asked for. And then from there, we pick the most responsible, lowest bidder. And then present that and recommend that to the Board of Trustees, which board then will either accept or not our recommendation, and then again, vote on taking on the consultant.
And only then can the work begin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we have a great deal of confidence in speaking with one of the principals that are doing this capital asset valuation, that it will be done well ahead of the May 31st, 2025 deadline. So I anticipate with full confidence it will be part of the 2025 audit and made available. And the auditors will be part of that process once it becomes available to get a head start.
So the thing that I was worried about last year, because I saw this material weakness was on the books year over year over year over year, coming in as the mayor first year. I didn't want to see that material weakness on the books again, But what happened, what I understood was we can't hire a firm that quickly. We cannot get this done. Stephen started in October or September, and there was no way to get that RFP out and all that work done to meet the deadlines of the close of the fiscal. So the deadlines of the close of the following fiscal, which was 24, 25, we were able to do that. So it'll be included in our audit for next year. And how wonderful that will be to see that material weakness removed from our evaluation.
Yeah, and once that list is created and we have it, it's very easy and it's a simple process to update it. So it should never happen again. Once that list is there, this should never be an issue again. Going on to the next one. So within the management letter, there's something called other matters. This is similar to a material weakness, but it doesn't rise to the level that it could cause a misstatement. But what it means is that there is a internal control that could be deficient that may need to be addressed. And they give a recommendation, the auditors, of how to address it. So we'll go each one by one. One of them is deferred revenue. As we stated previously to coming into the office, there was deferred revenue didn't exist on your normal year-to-year revenue basis. For general fund, it's recreation. You know, we bill out ahead of time, months in advance, for programs that begin in the summer. Summer camp, the different youth programs. Those programs typically happen in the summer, going from like May into September. Well, we take a lot of that revenue in January, February, March, and April, and we would in the past book it to January, February, March, and April, when it should have been deferred fully to the next year. So what that does is it causes your revenues to be too high. And it just year over year, you don't take that hit that you need by reclassing it and resetting that button. So that's what we did for general fund, and the same thing, it was roughly $234,000 for the general fund. And then for the country club, between the capital assessment and the membership fees, it was about $1.7 million that had to be taken out of what in the past would have been recorded as a revenue in the year and moved to 2025, which it was. It was booked June 1st, 2025, and the audit for 25 will reflect proper revenue numbers and it will look normal. You won't see that loss because it's a one-time correction. Proprietary fund. So as discussed by the auditor, when you're running a business type activity like a country club, sometimes like an electric plant or a sewer plant, depending on how you take in your dues, those are really called enterprise funds. And the country club has never been that. It's always been classified as a special revenue fund, which is kind of adjunct to the the general fund as a governmental fund. The biggest differences are you record all of the assets that are country club assets in the fund itself. Whereas for a general fund, it's on the back end. You don't record the assets on your ledger. You record it on the back end, what's called the W fund. So you have all of your assets in line in your fund. You have all of your long-term liabilities, like what are your bond payments for the next 10 years? That gets booked. How much do you owe your employees for compensated absences? That gets booked. So, and then you have to record what's your depreciation of your assets. So until we have that fixed asset report, it makes it very difficult to do this conversion, especially for, to try and change 2024. Really, we need that fixed asset report to be able to properly put all of the money in the right buckets.
Stephen, can I
yes.
ask you to clarify for folks what the impact of not doing depreciation and not really having an inventory of our fixed assets, what the financial repercussions of that are?
So there's really there's two answers to that. Either your assets are they're overstated or they're understated because you're not recording the amount of money and capital investment that you're putting into your fund. Every time the village goes and paves roads, that goes towards your capital assets. That goes towards your land improvement. Anytime the country club went the bunker project, $500,000 of fund balance used to redo the bunkers, that gets added to your capital asset. It gets added to what is the value of the country club. But without doing that, you have a static number that never changes, you don't really know where you're at, which could affect, it really reflects on your financials. It can lead you to either having, not looking like your net position's really good, or it could be, it could be better. So it's really important to get it done.
Yeah, I think I would add to that, that if you don't understand what your inventory is, if you're fixed assets, people can walk off with pickup trucks or, what have you. I mean, that's the extreme, but, and you'd never know because no one's controlling the fixed assets. Second thing is, as a deficiency in the financials, it could potentially impact our cost of funds because our access to bonding would be impacted by that as a deficiency in our financials.
So money costs more.
Yes. Yeah, those bond those bond agencies, when they go to lend you money, they want to see that you're in a strong net position. So it could affect that. That's a good point, Trustee Ogrinski. And the last one is employment contracts. We touched on this earlier, but basically the non-bargaining unit members, so like your senior level management, those that are not within the union. There's always been longstanding policy and practice for the village, but really what's needed is to review if an employment contract or some sort of form is needed, and that is currently being undertaken with the Labor Council right now. So that's all I can report on that, but it is being addressed. And
So why, can I ask, so I'll ask Ally this question, why is that so important?
Well, it also helps.
Mike. Thank you, Ally.
Yeah, especially when we noticed it when we were doing auditing the compensated absences. So you want to know what their pay rate is, what they're entitled to. Is there a maximum allowed of days that they're entitled to? So it's hard to judge and look at the compensated absences if we don't have an outline of exactly what they're entitled to.
So
So they follow the policy, but it's easier. It would be beneficial to put it
to have a policy in place.
Correct.
Because we're basically following the union contract for the,
yes.
that's just, doesn't make sense, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions
That's all I have.
for Treasurer Gafka?
Clerk, is it appropriate to invite the Budget and Finance Committee up? And okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the Budget and Finance Committee. They're, for the most part, almost everybody's here today. And the chair will be reading in their remarks relative to the work that's been done to date. So I'd like to invite the chair up.
What's his
Bill
name?
Gatta.
Oh.
What's his name?
William Gatta. Is there anybody else here who you want to
Yeah,
acknowledge?
let's-
Okay.
yes.
After Bill? After Bill reads it in?
I would like them to stand first, and then I can acknowledge them. So Carl Jansen and Renee Tidwell and Irene. Irene Rios is not able to be here today, and our audit participant, Eunice Murata, is unfortunately in Canada on a work assignment. So, but thank you to all of you, and I'll hand it over to you, Bill.
Okay. Dear members of the board, members of the Budget and Finance Committee are pleased to provide an update on the recently completed audit of financial year ending May 31st, 2024. We sincerely thank R.S. Abrams and Company, LLP, for their professionalism and guidance during their first-year audit. Their expertise was invaluable in navigating the process and ensuring a successful outcome. The audit was conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. It should be noted that the financial results reported in the past were not reported in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. Fixed asset purchases were not properly approved, recorded, or depreciated in accordance with sound accounting practices or generally accepted accounting principles. The current administration, realizing this issue, implemented new accounting practices to properly approve and record these purchases and implemented significant corrections to both processes and financial systems. After independent analysis and discussion with PKF O'Connor Davies, a report was presented to the board, and a corrective action plan for the remaining remediation has been developed and approved. Currently, the sole adverse opinion on government activities stems from the exclusion of capital assets in the financial statements. The adverse opinion was issued because the village did not record capital expenditures in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The village did not follow sound accounting principles to approve and record such expenditures. These practices were not in place prior to the current administration, and significant effort has gone into correcting them. Properly managing fixed assets not only supports the municipality's financial health, but also ensures the effective delivery of public services to its residents. The ongoing correction action plan has been discussed with the current treasurer, and we stand firmly behind its implementation. We are confident this plan will improve the presentation of capital assets as well in future financial reporting. The committee will closely monitor the implementation of the corrective action plan and report progress to the board. We are committed to enhancing financial reporting practices to ensure continued compliance and transparency. The Budget and Finance Committee extends its gratitude to R.S. Abrams and Company, LLP, and the treasurer, Stephen Gafka, who has taken on fiscal issues that were years in the making with an eye toward a more financially sound village when complete. The committee also extends its gratitude to the village staff for their diligent effort in completing the audit. We have gone from many years of unreliable data and practices to sound accounting practices and believe the village is now on a path to achieve best practices in municipal financial management. Members of the Budget and Finance Committee want to ensure that the village will be on the sound financial footing going forward for our residents.
Thank you, Bill.
That's it.
Wow. Thank you to the whole committee.
All right.
Deep gratitude.
May I
And to you.
I just want to add one last
Please.
thing. Okay. So recognizing that a lot of people don't have an accounting background, I would just like to sort of highlight this in English, right? So year-end '23, we had an $8 million deficit in our capital fund. We also had a surplus of $2.3 million in the general fund. When we completed the 7-year fund balance audit, we then knew what needed to be corrected. A lot of work has gone into those corrections: financial systems, financial reporting, purchasing procedures, et cetera. Year-end '24, after quite a bit of correction, we wound up with a 2.7 deficit in the capital fund and a $1.6 million surplus in the general fund. That's our starting point. That is the first time, really, in as long as I've been a resident for 12, almost 13 years, that I have a clear picture of what the financials of this village are. So no conjecture as to why or how it happened. What's important is that we've fixed it. We're on our way to having complete financials that we can rely on. We have an accurate understanding of our financial position for the first time. We have correct procurement policies. And we also are developing a plan now, and it's going to take us probably the next 3 years to get to that contingency, budget or contingency fund that we need for when things go wrong and you need to spend money because something broke, right? or there was an emergency. But understand that this is kind of a delicate state, and we have to think about how do we protect it? How do we prevent this from happening again? What are the guardrails we can put in place that ensure that as administrations change, we continue to have the confidence that we can provide services to our residents and that we are being fairly taxed as residents for those services. So I just want to express my personal gratitude for all of the hard work that the village staff, the treasurer, and the guidance from the Budget and Finance Committee have put in. This has been, I've had a front row seat to all of this work, and I am tremendously proud of that work effort on their part. So thank you again, really. It's just an amazing outcome.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Now, public to address the Board of Trustees. Who'd like to start? Barbara.
Hi, Barbara Sabatino, 2 Westview Avenue. A couple of weeks ago, I knew that our parking stickers had to be renewed this year. So I went on the internet, I went on project.com, and I tried to get into the page that lets you renew, and it kept on bringing me to a page that would tell me how many tickets I had and how to rectify that, which I don't have any tickets, I just want to renew the parking sticker. So I gave up after a while, but this morning I was on portjeff.com, and it said that the parking stickers are extended till March 3rd. So I kind of think that might have been the problem. My question is that once we hit March 3rd, will there be some kind of guidance? Because I don't navigate portjeff.com very well. I have, when it says, what are you searching for? And I put in what I'm searching for, all these articles come up that date back and not really what I need. So will there be some kind of a guidance to bring us to the right page?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, all of the yes, there will be.
Okay.
Yes. And soon.
Was that the problem? Because it kept on saying, and I actually knew my password from 2 years ago. So when I put it in, it kept on saying, well, you don't have any tickets, but you can't renew. It's.
Yeah, no, there were a few issues, but they're being rectified, and the portal should be open very shortly to begin that process.
And then my last question is the announcement about tax assessment rolls, and they're available for inspection starting February 1st. How would I do that? Would I come down to the Village Hall, or is it something I can do online? Both. Okay, so it won't take me to the tickets.
Hopefully not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Michael Schwarting, 106 Bayview Terrace in the Village. I have 2 issues that I'd like to bring up. I've written letters in the past to the trustees, and I know those aren't typically answered, so I thought I'd come tonight. And I'll read briefly the 2 issues. The Beach Street residents are suffocating from the Tilcon truck traffic dust. The street is not safe, and it is inadequate for truck traffic. The road is approximately 22 feet wide and should be 32 feet for two-way traffic and parking. Tilcon's business has been growing, and the truck traffic is increasing with more 24-wheelers starting at 7 a.m. including sometimes Saturdays, and now all year round. Over 20 years ago, I was on the village committee to rezone the waterfront, and we looked at and recommended using the roads of the power and sewer plant for truck traffic. We were told later that there was a security risk with the power plant. However, the sewer plant built their own roadway from the power plant, but connecting it to its road when the sewer plant was enlarged. This could be extended about 1,000 feet along the south side of the sewer plant, which is open wooded property owned by the sewer plant, and it would connect to Beach Street across from Miller Marine, very close to Tilcon's entry and exit. The power plant is on the north side of the sewer plant, so this is potentially on the south side. Allocating truck traffic to the power plant's existing entry-exit would help traffic at West Broadway and Beach, where trucks going west slowly climb the hill in noisy low gears or dangerously pass through Main Street to go south. Safety and health, property values, and quality of life are all at issue. A successful mixed-use coexistence of residential and industrial is possible, with both being better off if this could be achieved. I have some aerial photographs of that. Sir, could you give them to the clerk? Sure. Thank you. Of the existing road that comes in by the power lines up on West Broadway and connects to the power plant. But at a certain point, as I noted, the road was intercepted with a new road going to the sewer plant for its expansion, and it terminates at the sewer plant. But it seems possible from looking at the aerial photographs and topographic maps that could be extended to Beach Street. So I had sent that to the trustees, and I would like to ask that this be entertained by the board at some point.
Thank you.
The second issue is 4 years ago, the New York State DOT reconstructed West Broadway from the Village line to Beach Street and built a sidewalk from the line to just east of Jane Street, leaving a section that is topographically complex with 5 houses and the Bayview Terrace Road connecting to it. I wrote letters in August 2021 and October 2023 about why the sidewalk didn't go to Beach Street and downtown, as it was said there would be a connection from Setauket to Port Jefferson when they reconstructed the road. I noted its crumbling asphalt and dangerous condition. From inquiry, DOT wrote to Senator Palumbo that it had looked at all options in 2020 and decided to put up a highly visible sign that pedestrians were using the bicycle shoulder. They put up a confusing pedestrian crossing sign a few months ago. So since they are not going to do more, presumably, can the village repair the asphalt walkway that is there with steps at the Bayview Terrace intersection and other steps that are on that path? And I have also a picture of the sign that the DOT put up just a few months ago that is, in fact, a pedestrian crossing sign, not a sign suggesting movement along the side of the road. So those are my 2 questions that I thought to bring to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Karen Sullivan, 66 Soundview Drive. So, good evening. I'm happy to be here, grateful to be here tonight. First off, I just wanted to publicly acknowledge the success of the ICE Festival from a business owner in the village with my store at 146 East Main Street. James Luciano and his team did an incredible job in involving the community and the businesses. It was a great event. It was our first time participating, and I hope that I get to participate in more. And I also really am publicly offering up my services to James and anybody else that wants it, because we need to do more things like that in the off-season for this village. Because now, as a business owner, I can go days now with no business in my store, which is fine, but you know, we can't have days and weeks. So I would love to see if we can kind of put our heads together and, you know, and I can help James in any way possible to try to build upon that in the off season, which really, you know, I think for me now that, you know, I'm coming around to my 1 year anniversary, April 12th, you know, I think really it's January, February, and March, but, you know, please correct me if I'm wrong, but again, I'm just here to offer my love and support for the village. So this brings me to my next point, is the Public Safety Committee. So I interviewed for that committee on December 18th with Trustee Hill and Tracy Stapleton, who's the chairperson. And that interview, I believe, went well. But I have reached out to Trustee Hill twice just to kind of circle back and kind of follow up to see where we're at in the process. And Trustee Hill said that, you know, there were some other residents that were being interviewed for the position, which I think is fantastic, that there's been a big interest in that committee, but I haven't heard anything. And now, you know, we're approaching the end of January, and I still don't really know where I stand if I'm going to be, you know, used for service to sit on the committee. So I am respectfully asking that somebody please contact me with, you know, an answer as to kind of where I stand in the interview process, or if the seat's been filled, I do not know, but I would like a response at some point about that. And then that brings me to my next point, which is really the main reason why I want to sit on the Public Safety Committee, because now, not only am I a 31-year resident of the village, but I also now own a store in the town that I love, and I feel that I really can bring good perspective and insight into both sides of the coin, as most of our residents can. So some things that obviously I've noticed with East Main Street since I've been there now as a business owner, the speeding is like absolutely insane on East Main Street. And it's kind of the feeder for the ferry, which we all know that. But I really feel that we've got to do something to slow the traffic down. And I talked to other business owners there. I talk to my amazing new friend Lou Della Rocca all the time, because he comes down to my store every day, and we sit and we have coffee and we talk about village life and village business and living in our village. And I have a bunch of ideas of how we can try to slow traffic down. So I hope that we can have conversations around that at some point. The other question I have is, now that we're getting into the spring season, hopefully, I think it's like 50 days till spring, not that I'm counting, but I would like to know, we used to have this machine, I think Mayor Grant had called it like a gum buster machine. I would like to know if that's something that can be re-implemented and we can kind of go across the sidewalks on East Main Street, and then just really look and assess the sidewalk cleaning. There's a couple of areas there that are, the sidewalks just very stained from some of the trees and stuff like that. There's also some planters that are in front of like some of these vacant lots. They're probably like owned by the people that, you know, own the lots. But like in the fall, in October, I didn't really ask for permission. I just kind of went over and planted mums in this planter bed that's close by my store because it was ugly and it looked terrible, and I really wanted to just make it look better, and it was around the time of the Harvest Festival. So I would like to see if we can just consider doing some plantings in the spring with any of these planter boxes that are there. If they're privately owned, I am more than willing to chip in to just create some improvement for East Main. And like I said, the speeding is something that we've got to address. I have almost been hit by a car 3 times in like the last 6 months. My door was almost taken off on my car as I was leaning into the back of my car to get boxes to bring into the store because people kind of speed around the curve to get to the ferry and stuff like that. I would love to see speed tables installed on East Main Street. I think that would completely solve all the issues. We did it in other areas of the village, and I think because, you have to slow down. If you don't, you're going to rip the whole bottom of your car off. So I just think that would be just an easy fix. In the short term, maybe I'm respectfully requesting that we do some kind of a traffic assessment or a traffic study, or if we have those signs that have the digital printout, of what your speed is that we've installed on old posts and stuff like that, that might be good as well, but just my observation as well. So thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Before you go, I just want to, Karen has graciously offered for my next Saturday sit-down to be hosted at her facility. So
yes.
thank you for that. I'm going to take you up
Yes.
on that offer,
Okay.
and we'll get together, work out all the details.
Yes,
So thank you.
absolutely.
Then I'll go.
My name's Joe Karachi. I'm an active code enforcement employee. So it's a good segue into my my presentation, since today is the vote to make some changes to the code, which would appear like they're going to go one way. But I'm gonna say what I wrote down. I'm going to read it exactly so I don't go off on tangents. Let me start by saying I love my job. I love knowing that every day I made a difference in many people's lives, whether they know it, see it, or appreciate it. I also know I'm risking my job saying what I'm going to say tonight, but the risk is 1,000% worth if I can make a difference to just one person. But anything I say tonight does not in any way diminish the absolutely amazing job our police department does. They're some of the best police officers in the country. However, this is the biggest precinct in Suffolk County, and they respond to an obscene amount of calls every day. With that being said, I first want to congratulate all of you for your commitment to this narrative. You have successfully gaslighting the members of the community into believing that the code carrying firearms is a risk and liability, and that this is a completely safe and quiet village with no crime or need for code as they were. Even with all code has done for the community, you've been able to convince people that we are not first responders, we are actually just ticket agents, and we don't need the ability to protect ourselves. So congratulations, it takes skill to make people not see what's actually right in front of them. Speaking of what's not right in front of you, the last meeting I spoke in December at the Village Center, you may recall the mic cut out while I was speaking for the entire time, but then did go back on after I was done. So nobody outside of the room heard that whole exchange. But if you recall, Mayor, you said you had already hired a full-time code employee to do the bank drops. Who is that full-time employee? I thought that all hires needed to be public, especially since if they're full-time, they have to be hired through a civil service list. Now, maybe you did hire someone and decided not to tell code or the community. Next, why is there a posting for an assistant code supervisor position when there hasn't even been a supervisor hired yet? Again, maybe there was a supervisor hired and it just wasn't communicated. But in the name of transparency and more curiosity, I'm curious, how much money did it cost the village to hire all the consultants and experts you said you've hired over the last 2 years to advise you in coming up with the agenda? At the December meeting, you had several people there to advise, including someone to do a PowerPoint presentation, and a long-retired civil service employee speaking incoherently for what seemed like 3 hours. How much did the village pay for all that and all those people? Since everyone likes to use the fear of cost and liability to justify things, a couple thoughts came to mind. What is the cost and liability of the village if a code member gets hurt while performing any number of their duties? What's the cost and liability if something happens to someone in the village that could have been prevented having code there, even if it was not within the scope of their job description? I ask because I'm not sure if you're aware, or anyone's aware, at this point, there's one or no code enforcement working any particular shifts. This morning, until 6 o'clock, there was no code on the schedule. So That's why I ask about that liability. For those of you that feel safe in the village, just know that it's partially under the umbrella of what code has always done for you. Whether it is our job or not, you had a professional, skilled, qualified, proud, caring, and selfless group of men and women that went above and beyond to keep you safe. Here's some examples. We've administered CPR, Narcan, AEDs, saved many lives. Performed first aid, including bleeding control, tourniquets, jumped in the freezing water several times, pulled people out of overturned cars, many car accidents, pulled people out of fires. Been the first on scene for 4 shootings and a stabbing in the last 5 years. Secured crime scenes while waiting for police to arrive, prevented people from committing suicide, protected the village from kids on bikes that were determined to destroy cars and disrupt traffic. Dealt with all the issues with the train station, PACs, preventing drugs, drinking use in public. Dealt with the drunk idiots that want to come out at night after going to the bars and fight. We've backed up Suffolk County Police Department so many occasions I can't even list. Secured scenes of bomb threats on Main Street, the Village Center, Ferry. Walked employees and visitors to their cars to make them feel safe. Met the trains nightly to make sure the passengers got off safe. Patrolled targeted neighborhoods at the request of the village. Keeping homeless camps out of the woods from sleeping on benches all over the city, all over the village. Patrolled trustees' properties at their request through the years. Went above and beyond to effectively prevent speeding on Main Street in so many ways with limited authority. Omnipresence works, but that was always an issue too. And I can go on all night about that. This is what our CC reports. These are the reports that we submit after every time we get called, we have an issue, anything like that. I highly recommend everybody requests to get the opportunity to read them because this tells you everything we've done if you don't know what we've done. And this is just 2024. So, haven't even pulled 2025 yet. So even if you don't know what we truly did for the village, or who we are, the only reason you feel safe is because we do our job so well that you feel safe. I really hope that you will still feel safe knowing that you no longer have us as first responders. What you now have is a group of people to write tickets, only to watch and listen to everybody complain about how awful the parking situation is in the village, to no fault of code. All of the quality of life code violations that we used to enforce in the village, like loud mufflers, public intox, smoking in parks, loitering, are now extremely unsafe, putting us in danger to enforce them. I've read many Facebook posts and listened to many people in these meetings say things like, you don't need a gun to protect yourself in Port Jeff. Why do you need a gun to write a ticket? We are safe here only because of the police, not code. We don't feel safe with code having firearms. There's too much liability if they ever discharge a weapon, which, by the way, has never happened. All I could say is if you disagree with the ideas of code being armed, maybe it's time to pay more attention to what's really going on. One last fact. I got this off the New York State website. And this is not directed towards this administration or any other administration. This is just facts from New York State. The 5-year average from 2019 to 2023 for Suffolk County, shooting victims in all of Suffolk County, there were 74. Port Jeff had 6. That's 8.1%. Worse than that, individuals killed in Suffolk County. There were 16 in the same 5-year period. 2 of those were here. It's 12.5%. That's straight off the state website. I'm 100% sure that we in code, there would have been more if we weren't here as an armed deterrent. These factual numbers don't scream safe to me. Now, I don't care what you call us. No one does. You can call us meter maids, dishwashers. However, taking away our ability to protect ourselves and the village is reckless and unsafe. You have made it very clear that no matter what the opposition feels, proves, or says, you're going to go forward and change the code. Since as your plan, I'm only asking that you do not continue this policy that prevents us from carrying firearms under the false narrative that we have the liability. Not only is it false, it's disrespectful to us. The removal of constable from the village code and removing firearms do not have to go together. Since you're rewriting the code anyway, you have the ability to do what's right. I really hope you reinstate the carrying of firearms immediately so we can get back to doing what we've always done, and that's keeping the village safe. So, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Matthew Franco, 5 Avon Drive, Port Jefferson, New York. I wasn't going to comment on code, but I have to say I've never seen a weapon administer Narcan. I've never seen a weapon give CPR. I've never seen a weapon used to do many things. I spoke to one of the gentlemen walking out of that meeting the other day and asked, are you willing to put your family at risk? Because if you discharge that weapon in this village, we're only indemnified for a certain amount. You kill someone in this village discharging your weapon, they're going after your pension, your home. You're not protected. So I applaud the village for taking a stand and saying, enough, we're not going to compromise ourselves and compromise the integrity of the village. This is a tough decision, but it's the one that you have to make. I wasn't going to comment about that. And I don't think you're gaslighting. I think that you guys are making educated decisions. And it has to be made that way. Sometimes people don't like it, but please continue to make educated, appropriate decisions for the village. It's important, and I applaud all of you for that. What I came here to talk about, I received an email that we were going to expand the Board of Governors at the golf course, adding 4 additional members, a junior member and then 3 additional residents. The problem I have with this is that we do not have bylaws in place at the golf course. And if we had bylaws in place, we could set elections, who can be elected, who can be officers. The problem currently is that we've elected people that don't live in the village. And they can't get a parking pass in the village, but they're making determinations on what rates are going to be in the village and things that are going to happen in an email I just received, our most valuable asset. I believe our most valuable asset should be protected by village residents. To back up a little bit, to get back to the expense that they were going to try and implement, the new fee scale, they wanted to institute an initiation fee for residents to join the club. They wanted to eliminate junior members. They wanted to eliminate the discount that residents, people who live in this community who own the golf course, they wanted to eliminate that and let everybody pay the same increase. It's interesting that they grandfathered themselves in not to receive the non-resident initiation fee. Those 3 reasons alone, we should disband the current Board of Governors, implement proper bylaws that set the structure within the golf course. Because if you look at the way it is structured right now, a non-resident who is the president of the board is also on the CCMAC. It befuddles me how we have non-residents representing the most valuable asset we own. So I would call on the board today to disband the current Board of Governors. Immediately call for the implementation of bylaws so that we can have residents take care of our most valuable asset. That was the first thing. Secondly, we have pushed down the road since December 4th the junior membership issue. Are we today going to vote on the junior memberships and ratify that we are keeping junior memberships? It's a question.
This public comment.
Oh, so you know, okay, fine.
You can address your question to the clerk, and we'll get back to you on it.
Oh, we're going to ratify that today?
We'll get back to you on that issue.
Okay.
Public comment, it's a board's agenda.
That's fine.
I don't believe it's on the agenda, but you'll get an answer.
Okay. Also, many people in the community would like an answer on the Board of Governors and how we're going to rectify that situation. Secondly, there was an email sent out, or communication, that we are trying to get $50,000 for a potential 10-year plan in the village for the golf course and north of Country Club Road. My question is, the contingency and capital reserve fund plan was for a catastrophic failure at the golf course or potential upgrades to the golf course. It seems to me that we're now taking it as an accessory fund to say, okay, we have an extra, by the way, Trustee Urginski, I spoke to Danielle in membership, and she stated that we're on pace to approximately have 600 members. Based on the $300 capital reserve fund, we should almost reach that 5% capital reserve fund or contingency fund. I can't imagine that we need a 10-year plan, that we need to spend $50,000 on a 10-year plan. That's what the general manager's job is, to develop a 10-year plan. He is one of the highest paid employees in the village. I believe, and I'm guessing, close, between $160,000 and $150,000 a year. His main requirement is to develop a 10-year plan. Why are we taking $50,000 out of a capital reserve fund that I was told at the December 4th meeting was for, specifically, a catastrophic failure at the course, where if the pump went bad, and it was brought to my attention that our bond rating wasn't fantastic, that if we had to take a bond, we'd have to take out additional interest on the loan and it made sense. A capital reserve fund made sense. That's why nobody fought it. We all said that's a good idea. But if we're now using the capital reserve fund for other things than what it was originally purposed for, well, that's a problem. And people are going to be very upset that the money that we're kicking in is now going to be used for north of Country Club Road, which I can only guess is the catering hall, because I can't imagine what we need the $50,000 for when we have a general manager who can develop a 10-year plan. The third thing is I came in last January and discussed the retaining wall on Belterre Road. Now, that retaining wall is failed. There are spikes sticking out of it. The retaining wall has pieces of shards sticking out into the walkway, and we have done nothing about it. I spoke to Mr. Friedling, I believe, hopefully I pronounced Andy, and I asked, who owns the property? Like, why have we, in the past 13 months, not cited that property owner over and over and over again about the failure of that? Why have we not blocked off that walkway? Because that is a catastrophic failure of that retaining wall. Are we waiting to get sued? Now, it's on the record. It was on the record last January, and it's on the record today. We do not have an excuse for allowing it to continue. When we get sued, we're going to get sued heavy. So, my question is, what are we going to do about it? Now, I was told by Mr. Friedling that we don't know if that's on village easement or if it's on the property owner's property, that we need to do a survey to find out who actually is responsible for the retaining wall. So he was negotiating with the property owner. It's been a year. That retaining wall has been like that for 10 years. When are we going to make a stand? I mean, we waited so long to fix the bluff, and now we had a blowout, and potentially we can't fix it anymore at the country club. So are we going to wait till we have a catastrophic failure and a little kid walking with their mother jabs themselves with an eye with a spike sticking out in the middle of the walkway? I believe that these are things that really need to be addressed, and addressed not, hey, we're negotiating with the building owner. Start to cite them. My neighbor took down a few trees in the back of his house and was cited $2,000 and had to pay to put those trees back, and I mean immediately. How have we let this property owner not be cited for many, many years for this defective retaining wall? It's this type of, delay. And I understand it's not all on this current administration. This has been going on for a long time. But I did speak to you guys a year ago about this, and it is still status quo, which leads me to my last point. I love this village. It's an amazing place to live. My kids had a wonderful experience. My wife and I enjoy walking in the village, golfing in the village, shopping in the village. It's an amazing place. And I don't want to come here and just, point out issues that I think are important. I want to put my money where my mouth is. So today, going forward, I'm going to run for trustee because I want to help everybody on this board make this village an amazing place, the place that I love, that my family loves, that we enjoy. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate all your help, and hopefully we can get some of this done and we'll get some answers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Regina Stanton. I live at 107 Beach Street. I just wanted to address 2 points that Mr. Schwarting addressed earlier. The first point with the Beach Street traffic with the trucks, I just wanted to say, in addition to everything he said, I agree with everything he said, but there's no way a truck and a car can pass on that road. I don't know if anyone knows that. And the trucks routinely go up on the sidewalk, which crack the sidewalk, and to me, it seems like the sidewalks, the second it's fixed, it's cracked again. So it's just another point that, that may go overlooked. But I walk the sidewalk every day with my dog. My kids are on their bus stop is on the sidewalk. Thankfully, he gets on the bus at 6:50 a.m. So the trucks have not come by yet. But it is a problem. And I ask that you look at with respect to Mr. Schwarting's second point, I ask that you look at the sidewalk just west of Beach Street, going up the hill. I know it's difficult, probably to fix, but it is a problem. And then in front of someone's house, there's barely a sidewalk. It's between ivy and it's all cracked. It's really dangerous too. So I just wanted to address those 2 points. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Riley Jr., 109 Rustic Road. I would like to refer to the country club issue as well. I think a lot of us felt frustration and confusion, and I think the article in the Port Times Record sort of captured that. But I also know there were compromises, and I know the board and the mayor did listen to reason to a certain degree, but we're not done. We're not done by a long shot. The mayor encouraged us to get involved, and I took a look in the mirror, and if it is that important to me, I need to get involved, more involved. I can't just sit back and hope it works out for the best for me. So I did. With another member, I tried to go to the CCMAC meeting this month. It was canceled without notice. I was standing outside of a dark room. I tried to go to the Board of Governors meeting, canceled without notice. They have our emails. We get emails all the time from the country club. It's as easy as shooting out an email. So at a time when there is confusion and frustration, I tried to educate myself and was not able to. I went online and I tried to educate myself, and I was able to learn a little bit. I could not find any bylaws for the Board of Governors. So they are operating, from what I understand, without bylaws. And I could be wrong about that. I just couldn't find them. And I most certainly agree with, well, in the time that I've been a member, I've seen the addition of Tom. I've seen the addition of the Board of Governors. Now the Board of Governors is going to be increased by 4 members, and we might bring a consultant in. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of cooks to make one pot of soup. And what I would request is that the Board of Governors be disbanded and reformed with a similar number that is right now, but with a resident as president. And the president right now is a non-resident. That also, from what I learned this week, puts him on the CCMAC. So this non-resident has a lot of power. He also has a lot of power unofficial power at the course. He unofficially runs the men's club on the weekend and the Tuesday night league. This is a non-resident who wields a tremendous amount of power. I can tell you right now, if this Board of Governors is reorganized and there's an election, I certainly will run. And if there's more than one youth allowed on the board, my daughter would run. But there's actually, more deserving candidates as far as youth are concerned. If there's only one, maybe you have a male and a female representative, and then we could have both. So in short, I like that you're listening to us, and I appreciate it. But work has to be done, and not a lot of time. But thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comment? All right, thank you. Now, I will turn the agenda over to Clerk Perillo and Attorney Moran.
Thank you. Mayor, next we have the continuation of a public hearing regarding a proposed local law repealing Chapter 19, Constables of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson, and amending Chapters 5 and 95 of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson.
Okay, so as just a housekeeping note, Clerk, do we have a housekeeping note on the resolution that's listed at the top of the agenda on the second page?
Yes, Mayor, we do. At the meeting on, at the public hearing on the 18th of December, we kept the public comment period open until the 22nd of January. So there is no need to close the public comment period as it was only open until the 22nd.
Okay.
From that time between the 18th of December and the 22nd, we received 3 comments. 2 of those were not specific to Chapter 19, and one of those was just against the carrying of firearms by the code enforcement officers.
Okay. Okay. So, we have a resolution to close the public hearing, just for.
Mayor, before you close the public hearing, if there are any other members of the board, since we have reconvened after the written write-in, if it's appropriate at this time, if any other members of the board wish to say anything before we close the
All
public
right.
hearing.
Thank you. Any other comment, additional feedback from the Board of Trustees on this public hearing?
Just a question. Just a question on the Harbor Complex Waterways. There used to be Bay Constable in the code. It's not in there anymore, but it still does say other duly authorized employee of the town of Brookhaven. Is that part of what we're trying to get to amend?
I think that's a harbor master, right? It's no longer a bay constable.
The existing code had harbor master, bay master, and other duly authorized employees of the town, but
What chapter?
95. So the write-up that we have in front of us, bay constable is gone. And I wasn't sure if,
Town of Brookhaven does not have any bay constables either.
okay,
We have harbor masters.
got it.
So in cleaning the house, we cleaned all the rooms.
Sounds good.
Trustee Laux or Giuliano, anything else? Trustee Ugrinsky?
Nothing
Okay,
new.
all right. So hearing none, other than Trustee Hill's question, I would like to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
So Mayor, with that, we have a resolution adopting the proposed local law as attached to the agenda, repealing Chapter 19 Constables of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson and amending Chapters 5 and 95 of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Mayor,
carries.
might just as a, because it's been a little bit of a topic, I think it's appropriate for a roll call vote.
Okay.
Trustee Laux?
Aye.
Trustee Giuliano?
Aye.
Trustee Ugrinsky?
Aye.
Trustee Hill?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we're going into agenda items right now?
Yes, Mayor.
All right. Would you like to lead that section of the agenda, Clerk Perillo?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
We have Resolution Number 12925, resolution approving the attached minutes of the December 18th, 2024, and January 8th, 2025 meetings of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay. All in favor? Trustee Laux, you can second, right? Trustee Ugrinsky beat you to the motion. Is that all right?
It's my motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I just,
Oh,
discussion.
you want a discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know at the December 18th meeting, we were discussing the country club and the junior membership. I was under the impression that we had tabled the results for the junior membership, but the minutes didn't reflect that.
We did not table that. The attorney is out of the room, but he can, here he is. Yes.
Yeah, the question was at the December 18th meeting regarding the country club, I was under the impression that we had tabled the junior membership for discussion at a later period. But
My
the minutes don't
understanding,
reflect that.
my understanding was the vote happened to do whatever the board decided to do with the memberships and the fees, and excluded the junior members, which in my understanding and interpretation would mean that the junior membership remains intact with the current fee and does not change. I don't think, unless someone wants to bring it up for further discussion, to amend those. Currently, as it sits right now, the resolution that was seconded and voted on was to amend the fees and the structure, whatever happened, and excluded the junior membership. Didn't remove the junior membership,
Right.
excluded them, so whatever fees and participation the junior membership had remained.
Right. Okay.
So it did not require another vote?
So we didn't.
I don't believe that requires another vote, but
Trustee, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I have a question. Would the existing regulations still apply? Or do we?
in reference to the
For
junior membership?
The junior membership,
If-
yes.
If it wasn't changed and it was specifically excluded, then it remains intact.
Would now be the time if we could change it?
I think that's a discussion that probably should take place in a work session first, because that's,
It's not formulated, so we don't formulate. Do we formulate in this setting?
generally, no, this is the business meeting, you generally formulate the ideas and come to some type of consensus at a work session.
Yeah.
And then present at this meeting, so
But this relates to something that's already been formulated. It's in the white book. That's the guidelines for the membership at the country club. Specifically, the junior member can reserve a tea time anytime after 8 o'clock and not 10 o'clock.
Okay. If that's what it currently says, then it remains intact. If you're seeking to change that, it's up to you to discuss it.
So it sounds, Trustee Laux, it appears that we might want to discuss it during the work session if there are things that need to change. And then we can vote on that. I do think it's important, though, that the residents have heard something more official, like a statement that we are not making changes to the junior membership. So,
That is the current status of the junior membership as we stand
Okay.
here today.
okay, and if there's something that needs to be corrected, Stan, let's address it in work session, and then we can
No,
ratify it.
I agree with that because
following
I believe that there are people here and people in the community with junior members who are still a little confused about
Let's,
where
if we
we're
can
at.
clarify that confusion, because it already existed, and there was a resolution to make changes to the membership in its totality, and it excluded the juniors remained intact, therefore not changed in any capacity from the golfing year of 2023 to 2024 to 2025. They
Okay.
remain.
I think it's important that that was stated
Yeah.
officially on the record, yeah.
So just, I mean, multiple times in the December 18th meeting, we mentioned tabling the discussion, but we did not end up voting to table it. We voted to exclude. Yes, so I'm just restating. But we did, everyone did say, table was said, well, I rewatched today, and it was said multiple times, but there was no vote. That being said, we also did bring this up at the last work session, and we were told we shouldn't talk about it then because we didn't have the attorney with us. But now we're kicking the can again for 30 days for something that I don't think is too complicated. And always keep, or try to keep in mind, we're talking about 19, maybe 20 players next season. Like, this isn't that many. The number of folks that we're talking about is very small compared to everything else going on in the village. I think we can just hammer this out. And my understanding, based on conversations in the December meeting and then the last work session, is that we agree to maintain the costs from the 2024 membership package for the juniors. And then the only question remained was, do they have to pay cart fees because they're not allowed to use carts on mandatory cart times? And there was a general consensus that that would be nickel and diming kids.
Do they currently, trustee? I'm just curious.
No,
They currently
not.
currently do not, but that was, I
Okay.
think the change was, I don't know when, I'm not certain in my mind when all these changes were put in place for the requirement to have a
I think that's the change we
license.
excluded, right? I mean,
Well,
by,
we didn't,
by
we didn't,
retaining.
we didn't work on any of the policy
But
either of those
retaining
times.
the former policy.
But the
it-
policy
it
was the
doesn't
sticking
implement
points
that.
of what was going on. And I think the other issue that, at least with the trustees, was the tea time specifically on Friday. And I think that is the only thing that there is still an appetite for trustees to amend. Like, I know personally for me, I would be fine with starting the juniors at 10 a.m. It's only 19 players, so it's a very small amount that could, possibly
With
take
nothing
time.
else changing, does it matter if we follow procedure, discuss it at the work session, and then finalize it at the next vote?
Well, does anyone object to
Yeah, we're
changing
just,
the? Does anyone object to moving
we're
the play-
pushing it back another month, which I think is something very simple that could be
What
done.
are we pushing back, really?
Basically the tea time. The tea times for Friday, right?
Have you seen the tea time regulation where it says they can call in and start at 8 o'clock? Have you seen that in the White Book? Do we know that that's true? Have you seen it?
It's
I thought it
2
excludes them on
p.m.
Friday.
for 2024
Right,
for Friday.
That would not be in the White Book because I don't believe the White Book has been.
Didn't you say it was in the
updated.
White Book, though, Stan, for
It is.
2024?
It is, 21. That's the
21?
last white book that was updated, to my knowledge.
Oh, it's on the website, 2024.
I know.
I'm
Oh.
aware.
No, let's see.
I see no reason why we can't discuss this at a work session.
No, we
We're
can,
not going to be playing golf anytime soon,
It's not.
so we've got time.
Alright.
we can also just get this done tonight.
Get what?
I mean, we've heard from, since I've been a trustee, I've heard more from folks in the village about this one issue than anything else going on. I don't know why we can't just get this done tonight.
Okay, I'm reading off the page 11 of the White Book. Golf Junior, ages 12 to 18. Member can play Monday through Thursday anytime except outing times and Friday, Saturday, Sunday after 2 p.m. Members must be 18 years or older on April 1st of the current golf season. Proof of age is required. Junior members are not permitted guests. You must have a valid driver's license to use a motorized golf cart. The minimum age for junior golfers is 12. And anything you want to change in that? If you do, we need a work session.
It's just that the Friday, I think, is the problem.
Friday what?
Friday tea.
Well, you said Friday after 2.
What about it?
Well, I'd like to see that changed.
To what?
Monday through Friday, the same as, make it consistent. You're talking about maybe 20 junior members.
I'd like to see the T sheet. I'd like to see the data. So if you want to bring that to the work session, I think if we're going to make a decision to change it, it's been this way. When was it different before? I don't know why the board is like, even, like, have we had complaints from juniors that tea time starts at 2 on Friday? They go to school for a good part of the season, and then.
Then there would be no problem. If they're in school most of the season.
Well, I don't see a problem anyway. I don't even know there's a problem, Kyle.
We've had plenty of parents email us about this. And we've
About
had plenty
starting at 2?
of residents too. Well,
Let's do this.
You've asked me. I'm going to
Okay,
answer.
sorry. Yep, go on.
They've told us that over the years, the junior membership program has been chipped away at and chipped away at and chipped away at, and they've been frustrated with that. And this was especially a problem with them last time because we were at that time proposing to double their membership costs. And now we did not do that, which is good. But
we
it
didn't address
still
the
remains
other
that we've
items.
chipped away at the program, and maybe we need to readjust backwards. Their tea times have started later. They can't take guests. They can't take carts. We wanted to increase the cost quite a bit.
They can take carts?
If they have a driver's license. But it used to be 16 and over could take a cart.
If you have a driver's license?
No, back in 2021, it said 16 and over you can take a cart.
Okay, that's not chipping away at membership, that's
But it's still their
driving
access, their privileges.
Listen, I hear what you're saying. This is devolving into something that should be discussed during a work session. That's my feeling.
But we
And I'm
tried
happy
to
do
bring
it, but
this
I'd
up in
like
the
to
last
see-
work session, and you said no.
I'd have to go back and look at the tape.
there, so we couldn't go through it.
Do you need to be part of the tea time discussion? Do you feel you need to be?
I work for you. If the board members think I should be present, then I should be present.
It was really to talk about whether or not what was covered in the resolution was changing the junior tea time. That was the advice that we were seeking, not that we needed the attorney there to have a conversation. I would like to see data. Like, I just want to know what the reality is. I don't know. All I can see is what's on the 2024 handbook. If the 2023 handbook, 2016 handbook, let's see the differences and how it's actually been chipped away. And why?
I mean, the first proposal we had was phasing out the junior membership.
Oh,
Let's recall
Is
where
there
we
something
started.
that we need to vote on right
Yes,
now?
I know, but clearly there's
We
been
have
an
nothing to
effort
vote on the agenda. If you wanted something to vote on the agenda, I wish you would have brought it forward and asked the clerk to put it on the agenda. Would have been fine.
But we can't do it now. So does anyone have strong opposition to moving the tea time back to 10 a.m. for juniors on Fridays?
Trustee Hill, what you can do, if you wish to open this discussion and add it on as what I'm going to call a walk-on resolution for discussion this evening, you have the absolute right to make that motion, and if it's seconded and voted to put on, we can do it.
Okay.
Unilaterally, you can't. 'cause-
Sure.
But
Yeah, I understand.
that is the procedure.
Do it.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to do it now? Do we do it now, Dan?
You want to do it now, or do you
we're in
want
the
to
middle
approve the
of
minutes?
approving
Yeah.
the minutes first.
Oh, I didn't know.
Right, yeah, we still have we didn't vote on the minutes yet, so.
Okay, but the minutes, is there any question with the minutes?
No.
We're
no
just,
no further questions.
now we're altering something, we're creating a new resolution for,
There's a motion to add on a resolution for discussion addressing the, I'm going to call policies or the white book as it relates to the junior membership. Motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote.
We're moving the junior start time on Fridays to.
That's not the resolution.
What's the
resolution?
resolution?
Is to add it to the agenda for discussion. Right now.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Right now.
Do we have?
So it's been seconded, it's been motioned and seconded that to add it on as a resolution, the board must vote now to put it on the agenda. If the vote fails, it remains off, and trustee Hill or any trustee can bring it to the clerk for a work session topic at a future date. If it passes, we begin discussion.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote. Trustee Laux.
Aye.
Trustee Giuliano.
Aye.
Trustee Ugrinsky.
Can you clarify, whoops?
What exactly am I voting for?
To open a discussion on the policies and procedures that govern the juniors.
To end resolution.
Aye.
Aye.
Sure.
Passes.
Okay.
Your mic.
All right,
right.
just point of order. We did not vote on the minutes yet. Okay. So this is still under the minutes? This motion?
We did vote on them. I have that.
We did vote
We
on the
did,
minutes?
We did, correct?
I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry.
I have
Okay.
that we voted on the minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But good looking out, Bob.
All right, then we motion to certify the junior program at the, matching the 2024 White Book, with the exception of the Friday start time, which will be moved to 10 a.m.
Just Friday.
Yes, because
Right, that was the only.
that was the only change.
Okay.
From the White
From
Book
the
as it existed in
2024 White
2024.
Book.
So simple motion is motion to amend the White Book as it relates to juniors, moving the start time from Fridays from, I believe, 2 p.m. to 10 a.m. Motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in
Discussion?
favor? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Here we go.
Motion carries. We passed the minutes. Juniors can play at 10. We're doing good. What's next? Okay.
Okay. So next we have resolution number 12925. Resolution accepting the fiscal year 2023, 2024 audited financial reports as presented by R.S. Abrams, the independent audit firm for the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 12925. Resolution approving the attached resolution recommended by former assessor D'Amato, authorizing the village assessor to include IRA, annuity, tax-exempt interest, and dividends into a senior citizen's income when determining eligibility for a senior real property tax exemption. May I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll
Second?
second it for discussion. So discussion is, I don't think we should do it. I don't think there's that many that are submitting the IRAs or the annuities that add up to their income, and I don't want to penalize senior citizens from receiving the exemption, so.
Do we have any data on how many residents that might impact from an economic?
So I asked the
Standpoint?
outgoing assessor a list of questions, and the only one that could be answered is the number of households that take the exemption. In the last year, so 2024, it was 42 households. And the resolution reads IRA money, but that is already included in the senior tax exemption. So we're really only talking about dividends, and the threshold for seniors that qualify for this is a household that earns $58,000 and change. So anything less than that, for perspective, the median household income in Brookhaven is about $120,000. So we're talking about half the median. And I have a hard time believing that there's folks who live in Port Jeff that are earning, as a household level, $58,000 a year, but are banking in dividends because they were day traders their entire lives and they're hanging out in Port Jefferson. So that's why and there were other questions that I asked that he was not able to answer, like how much revenue, like how many more seniors would be ineligible, and then what impact would this have on our revenue. Those projections were not available or attainable. So for me, I don't think there's enough information to support the policy, because it could, someone could get over this threshold by $50, and it's not like they're living large, in my perspective.
I would actually agree with Trustee Hill on this one. I think I think it's unlikely that the, 42 households that consist of seniors are living or able to show income of less than $56,000, where dividends would be an appreciable increase that would warrant a reduction in taxes. So recognizing that may be an unpopular position to take in ratifying this, I would have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, and speaking with the former assessor, he proposed this because this was passed by the town, and I realize in the town there's a lot more people that it would affect. But again, if there's only 42 seniors that have gotten this exemption, I don't see why we should be penalizing them, excluding them from the exemptions.
Did anyone ask the assessor why the town passed this? I'm just curious, because I don't understand why the town would, it's not on my radar, but did anyone ask him why the town passed it? He's pretty close to the town, but, I agree with what you were all saying, but.
I think the state authorized this
Is
to
that-
allowed, permitted.
Well, the state allowed you to
municipalities
do it if you wanted
this,
to do it. It had to
which
be enacted.
State level, it does certainly make sense, because I'm sure there are folks in New York City, most likely, who, their entire income is dividends, right? So they may appear to qualify based on a pension that they don't have, when they're actually, all their resources are tied up in the stock market.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. We have a vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Oh, okay.
All opposed?
Nay.
Opposed.
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 Opposed then. Yeah.
You're taking your eye back, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that motion carries. Fails.
Right.
5-0.
0-5.
Correct.
Zero
Thank you.
five.
Thank you. Okay, resolution number 4, 12925, resolution declaring as surplus and no longer needed for municipal purposes the vehicles on the attached list and 9 damaged Big Belly solar compactor units. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, hoping that this is going to be much easier to pass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Resolution number 5, 12925, resolution extending on a month-to-month basis the contract between the Village of Port Jefferson and Social Butterfly for the provision of website content, social media management, and IT services pending the forthcoming digital analytics presentation. May I have a motion?
Motion with discussion?
Oh, it needs to
We
get
need a second.
seconded
Second
first.
with discussion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. My only question is, I hope that covers the adjustment to the website that Barbara Sabatino was looking for.
So, I just would like to better understand how, pending the forthcoming digital analytics presentation, does that mean we're getting that at our next work session? Because I believe in the November meeting, I requested part of the digital analytics to see how well this vendor is working for our social media, and I did comment that I believe the fee was high, especially compared to other professionals that I've worked with that were paid a little bit more but full time on that specific project. So when can we expect the forthcoming digital analytics presentation?
I believe that will be ready for the February work session, which is 2 weeks.
The February work, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will comment that it is frustrating that we asked for analytics, which you can just go on the app and pull up, really, in November, but now it's January, and we're moving it to month. It's that is a bit frustrating.
I agree, but it's a month to month, so if we're expecting in February and then we don't get it, there is an out. because it is on a month-to-month basis.
But we have to,
We have to push them to make sure we get it in
we
February.
have to pull out, right? Not approve next time. If we move it to month instead of just
Right, we
January,
would need a
February.
motion to, and attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, but there would be a motion to disengage from the contract.
It's a month to month.
Right.
So if you don't renew it next month, it expires.
So we have to redo it? Sorry, so this would be.
This is the way I would handle it in
Okay.
this situation, hearing the tribulation of the board.
Okay.
So at the February public meeting, we have to authorize it again.
That's correct.
Okay.
Are you suggesting that we go back out to RFP rather than continue month to month?
Well, I think we should look at the analytics first. But
What I'm hearing, if you do it this way, it puts the screws to them to produce the information that we desire. And if they don't produce it, then we really don't have a choice but to move on.
I think you're going to be blown away, but it remains to be seen. So a lot's been going on between November and February here with this board inside Village Hall. And it's been, I can't even begin to tell you how busy it's been. That's not a complaint or an excuse or anything. It just is, we had to prioritize. So it's on us that we didn't prioritize saying, we need this presentation in December. We weren't asking for it in December, I don't think. We might have been asking for it in January, but if you look at our agendas in January, you see they were pretty busy too. So I think February will work. I think you'll be, impressed, and I hope you'll be impressed, but for now, I think this is the best way to go forward with this. And then you can make a decision or a recommendation or have an opinion afterwards that is informed.
sure. I mean, we don't need a presentation. We could also be sent a report and, the
I'd like
posts
to
that are
see,
up
I'd like
now-
the village to see the presentation. I'd like the community to
Sure,
understand what's
yeah.
going on with
I
our
think it's
social
important
media as well.
Show it to everybody.
And all the digital components of the work that they do. So that I think it'll be enlightening.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday there was a post up that included every character in a link, but on Instagram you can't copy and paste. So, there's certainly, it's not a grand slam. Let's say that.
Did they vote? Nope.
All in favor of Resolution 512925?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 12925, resolution approving the attached proposal submitted by Social Butterfly for the creation of the annual village-wide global event calendar. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Discussion. So this is the same vendor, and the only thing that we have in our agenda tonight is just, it looks like just the invoice for a global calendar for $1,500. To me, that just seems like an intern project. I don't understand why we have to pay someone $1,500 to pull together multiple calendars that already exist. That's my understanding what a global calendar would be. It would be the Port Jeff Village, Chamber in the Bid, and the school. Maybe if Mather and St. Charles are doing things too. But
It doesn't include the school. It doesn't include Mather and St. Charles. It's a calendar that's pulled together between the not-for-profit organizations in the village. It's a heavy lift of time, effort, intellectual property, and interactions with the not-for-profits and the village to pull together materials that end up being distributed on the website, printed, available at the village center. I don't know if you've ever seen those events. Like they're like this little larger than a palm card. They're handed out throughout the community, and it was actually pretty much a request from the not-for-profit organizations and collaboration with the village. And I don't know if anybody else who's an employee of the village has time to do it. So this is the organization that's been doing it for, I don't know, as long as it's been done. So I guess the IP is important, and the systems in place, the processes in place, the connections to the contacts at the different not-for-profits is in place. I think probably it'll cost less, but I don't know that an intern can come in and do this with new intellectual property and no relationships with the not-for-profits and no experience. No.
Would this include going after all the not-for-profits and making sure that they submit their dates and everything? So it's not just
They don't go
posting
after
something.
them, but they do work with them.
Okay.
But it's also for 2025, correct?
Yeah, it's for the upcoming
this year.
season, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the end of January, so, I mean, that's, yeah.
So should we not do it this year, Kyle?
No, I'm not saying that, but we're paying
What?
$1,500 for 11 months. It just seems.
No. It goes into next year. So the Wintertide and all the events for this winter are on that document. So it kicks off in the season, which is typically the end of March, April. So that's what they're targeting, and then it runs through the calendar through, right now, it had the Ice Festival on it, it had Wintertide on it, and any other events.
Not a calendar year.
It's not the calendar year, it's just a global calendar, not global calendar year. Okay, do we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a question. We're going month to month with this.
This is a different issue.
I know it is, but next month you vote them out?
They're contracted to do this project.
They're contracted
Through
to
this
do the
resolution.
contract anyway.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right,
Aye.
okay. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 7, 12925, resolution authorizing an extension of the monthly billable hours of independent content creator Gregory Zeller to a maximum of 40 hours per month on an as-needed basis. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I'm not going to say all in favor until somebody says discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution number 8, 12925, resolution approving the attached contract between the Village of Port Jefferson and the Rinks for the establishment of a collaborative preschool program at the Village of Port Jefferson Village Center, and authorizing Mayor Shepherd to sign the contract on behalf of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 9, 12925, resolution approving the attached contract between the Village of Port Jefferson and the Port Jefferson Rowing Club for the use of a portion of Centennial Beach, and authorizing Mayor Shepherd to sign the contract on behalf of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 10, 12925, resolution authorizing Recreation Director Renee Lemmerman to enter into a lease agreement on behalf of the Village of Port Jefferson with Office Solutions for the lease of a new Kyocera copier for the Village Center at a cost of $173 per month for 39 months, per the attached proposal. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 11, 12925, resolution approving the attached rates from Wellsback Electric for street lighting maintenance effective through December 31st, 2025, with all requirements and terms agreed to in the original contract dated July 1st, 2021, and authorizing Clerk Perillo to sign the customer acknowledgement on behalf of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Zena? Zena? Second, please. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 12-12925, resolution approving the hiring of Be Ready Law Group LLP as special election counsel to Village Clerk Sylvia Perillo for the upcoming village general election on June 17th, 2025, per the attached engagement letter, and authorizing Mayor Shepherd to sign the engagement letter between the Village of Port Jefferson and Be Ready Law Group LLC. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 13-12925, resolution approving the attached updated proposal submitted by P.W. Grosser Consulting, Inc. for the provision of engineering support services at the Port Jefferson landfill at the Port Jefferson Country Club, and authorizing Mayor Shepherd to sign the proposal submitted by P.W. Grosser Consulting, Inc. May I have a motion?
Motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 14-12925, resolution approving the attached proposal submitted by GEI Consultants, Inc. for the completion and submission of the FEMA-required annual monitoring and maintenance plan for the East Beach Bluff. Mayor, I believe we were tabling this motion?
So, we had discussed this with GEI about a week and a half ago to get a proposal together for this. We received it this afternoon, and I don't think we're prepared to move it forward because we have a few questions about it. So the issue of getting it on this agenda today was to sort of meet a deadline that we are requesting an extension for anyway, which was granted to us last year as well. So I think we'll have an okay time. This is a monitoring report that is required by the DEC following the Phase 1 of the Bluff project. So it's a 5-year requirement, and it's unfunded. So we're going to have to find the funds, understand where they're coming from. We're going to have to budget for this for 3 more years. So it is funded. The thing that seemed to be most costly, I think the clerk sent the proposal to you, the thing that seemed to be most costly, which is a requirement of this monitoring study, is a drone report, and then the subsequent content of that and pulling it together. It's something that we want to talk to them about a little bit more, understand a little bit better. So we do want to table this. Any concerns with tabling this? Okay, do we have a motion to table this yes?
I'm sorry.
Something?
No.
Nope.
Okay. What's the process?
I'll make a motion to table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a
I'll
second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution number 15-12925, resolution authorizing the solicitation of a request for expression of interest, EOI, for the creation of a 10-year strategic plan for the Port Jefferson Country Club to include capital and operations planning for the golf course and the entire campus on the north side of Fairway Drive at a cost not to exceed $50,000 to be expensed from the Port Jefferson Country Club budget. Mayor, I think we have a modification to this as well.
Okay, is that in process, or do we have to have a motion, discussion, and then modify it?
I think it's a simple modification just to remove the dollar amount.
Okay.
Because if it's a request for interest, there's no dollar amount associated with a request for
Right.
interest. So that, I think any amount of dollars just way too premature.
Yeah, okay.
So I would just, anyone that makes the motion on this, just
Stop at Fairway Drive.
Remove the speculation of the cost of a strategic plan.
stop it at the comma.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it would read, resolution authorizing the solicitation of a request for expression of interest, EOI, for the creation of a 10-year strategic plan for the Port Jefferson Country Club to include capital and operations planning for the golf course and the entire campus on the north side of Fairway Drive. May I have a motion?
Can I make a suggestion
Yes,
to
ma'am.
that? I would just put a period after country club.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
I think it's important to clarify something as we make that adjustment, right? That adjustment was made in response to a number of communications that we got from residents that read this as a request for proposal when this is actually just a request for information, or, you know, there is no dollar amount associated with what we're asking for. It's part of the information gathering, and as a result of that discussion with residents, you know, we're making this adjustment to the resolution. So I just think that needs to be contrasted. This is not a request for proposal for a $50,000 project. It is just a request for expressions of interest to qualify outside participants, should that occur in the future, which would be a separate resolution.
So can we get it to a motion, and then we can discuss? Sort of
sorry.
similar, you know,
What?
continue with that discussion. Can we do that?
I apologize for being out of process.
No, that's okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second. So just for discussion purposes, I'll read off what a request for an expression of interest is. So a request for an expression of interest is a document that is typically used in the pre-project development phase to assess interest in a project. It can be used to gather useful information from potential project tenants and to test and refine the project vision as a whole. The guide explains how and when to use, and then so the purpose is primarily used in the early stages of a project development, to gauge interest, solicit feedback, and refine project visions. It serves various functions, including developing a clear project vision, stimulating market interest, aligning project requirements with respondent capabilities, and determining the suitability of procurement process. So this is really just collecting interest from qualified consultants who might be able to, who want to get involved with potentially working on this. And it's a capabilities presentation. That's all. It's a capabilities submission. We're not committing to anything. We're opening ourselves up to be considered for future planning. And the prospect of that, and I'll define why, and please, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. We've been sitting on a piece of land at the country club at 44 Fairway Drive. One side of it is doing pretty well, the golf course. The other side of it looks like Mad Max Thunderdome. And there have been multiple approaches to addressing things and feedback given, very important people getting involved, wanting to help, volunteering their time and their ideas. I see some sitting in the audience today, and that's appreciated, but there's no organizing principle. There's no central structure organizing all the thoughts, bringing them all together so that they can be considered holistically for the future, for the next. This country club is going to be owned by the Village of Port Jefferson in 2028. That'll be that's the 50-year anniversary of purchasing it. From then to now, there have been no strategic plans put together to help this country club thrive. No holistic view of the land that it's sitting on, including a periphery, which is village land, which is East Beach, which is East Beach Bluff, which is west of the tennis courts. We excavated west of the tennis courts, and so we didn't plan for that. We didn't have the funding for it, so it's been sitting there, again, like part of Mad Max's Thunderdome for 7 years. The idea and intent was great. But without a plan, you plan to fail. Without critical thinking, data, numbers, analysis, you could do this over and over and over again and hope the outcome changes, but somebody told me that's the definition of insanity. So unless you plan, you might as well just say, we're going to be sitting here for another 10 years because there's nobody that's going to pull it all together. No one currently on staff has the wherewithal to bring this together. So, and a project manager and a financial officer, there are a lot of elements to this that are going to come into play. It's going to help, it will, if, let's just try and get through the request for interest in this project. At that point, you can look at this differently with an informed set of information of responses from people who do this for a living and make a lot of money doing it. We don't have a lot of money to pay them, but I think other clubs, the first step of the first part of the process is see if anybody's interested in working with us. Other courses that I've spoken with have done this already, and the going rate is somewhere under $50,000 for a strategic plan. I'm not saying we're spending that money with this vote. That's not what this vote is about. It's about hearing from the companies that are capable, experienced, professional, and can tell us what we don't see. I'm probably one of the first people online to see that this country club comes back. I'm not going to be here forever. Who's going to see it through? Who's going to project manage that? If the next mayor doesn't care about the country club and there's no strategic plan that's in operation and sustainable, you know, what are we doing? What are we doing with this? This is, if you invest a vote into a request for interest, that's not investing money. If we take it to the next step, to take it to a strategic plan, it's like the 30-year comp plan for the village. I don't know how we got this far without doing that. So we'd also look at probably increasing the value of the country club once this is done and have a much more holistic view which would absolutely 100% include the membership and any residents that want to participate too, because there should be some ownership in that as well. What I've been hearing from residents and members is that we want to have a say in what happens with the club. This is the way to do that. But the first thing we have to do is figure out if anybody wants to work with us and hear what they have to say about what capabilities they bring to the table, which to me is a no-brainer. So, any other comment?
Isn't this something that the general manager, the CCMAC, and the board of governors could do? I mean, could they be tasked with that and say we need this done in
They have been tasked with that.
X amount of?
They have been tasked with that. The general manager, yes. Yes, but
And we haven't gotten anything?
we haven't had a
Could
request.
we halt
for-
that discussion, please? Personnel matter, reference to job performance?
Oh.
I
Didn't
do-
mean it like that, but.
Yeah, I do have one observation. I think the initial response from the residents was based on the fact that we as a village have done, in pockets, a lot of work on this, right? I mean, you know, Trustee Louts probably has a lot more insight into the work that's been done over the past few years. We don't want to lose that work, right? This is an opportunity to have some assistance, similar to what we did with financials, to, you know, and we have a financial consultant that's been guiding us through the correction of this. I would love to see a situation where we gather all of the work that residents and other hired consultants have done, collect it, and start looking at it in a holistic way and figure out, is it executable? And how would it be executed? So I'm actually okay with sending out a request for information and starting to think about how do we start making progress on that? Because I agree. I moved here 12 years ago to take advantage of the fact that I had the water view right up the block, right? I have not been able to do anything meaningful at that restaurant, and it's not been a resource for me for the last 4 years, I want to say. So I view this as a step in the right direction. It's not a commitment to spend money, but it is a commitment to organize in a way that maybe we can start making some progress on this.
So this would be done without spending any money, so there would be no outlay of money to receive these back, right? I mean,
This
that's my
resolution
understanding,
has
correct?
no dollars.
Right, no dollars.
No dollars.
I see no way that any firm is going to come in and design something for us for nothing, for free.
Trustee Laux, that's not what this is, and I was going to enter after Trustee Urginski's comments. Even the trustees' comments are a little premature. This is just, hey, this is my firm, this is what we do, we'd love to sit with you and expand further. This isn't, hey, look what we designed for you. It's just not that. It's a request to see if anybody's interested in partnering with the village for a fee down the road to help develop that area as laid out artfully by the mayor. It's not they're going to design a plan, they're not going to meet with staff, they're not going to do any of that. They might take a ride through the parking lot and take a peek, and then say, you know what, this is something my firm has done at this country club and this golf course and this municipality. We can do it, village, if you're interested. Then you guys weigh all of that information, and if you decide to move forward or not, or task the general manager with it, or the CMAC, or whoever else, but it's the first step in a plan to do something with zero financial commitment. I agree with you, Trustee Laux. No one's doing it for free.
Something has been done over the years. There are plans in place. There is Holzmacher, who has designed the drainage system for the lower tennis courts. There was a bid put out, an RFP on the upper wall that came in 3-4 years ago. Two companies bid on it. There are plans in place, drawings upon drawings upon drawings for tennis courts and pickleball courts, with prices attached to those plans.
Agreed, and I think that's what the mayor's saying. It all exists in pockets. No one's corralling it to make a global effort to facilitate all the previous money spent to facilitate a grand plan. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, some over here. But this is possibly, if you guys decide to hire an entity to do this, someone that's going to go gather all of that information and those prices and those drainage plans and corral it into one workable 10-year plan, if you decide to do it. And I believe, Mayor, if I am echoing your comments, that's kind of what you said.
I kind of feel for the committee that's been working, I don't know how long now, in the meetings to come up with ideas about the North Campus, the Upland Campus. We've got a number of people working, meeting, visiting other country clubs, and we're just going to bypass.
Not bypassed, incorporate. Incorporate. So the committees that are currently in place, the boards, CCMAC, Board of Governors, to respond to that question, North Campus Steering Committee, Erosion Commission, all these entities are welcome to participate in the review and process, very similar to how the Harborfront Park came together, very similar to how the comprehensive plan came together. It takes people, not me. Not me. These committees would be germane in seeing this through, membership feedback, residents want to get involved with this. We create a steering committee for this process, however, and that's, I mean, they can review the requests as well, the responses to the requests for interest.
So here's my concern. I hear you on the need for a strategic plan, but this is a municipal course and a government asset, and we have to have the support of residents and members of the club to go forward. And I don't think we've received one positive comment from members on doing this. So I think if we want to vote on this and we want it to pass, we have to get the membership behind it. And we talked on Friday. I appreciate I urge you to email the membership to see what they thought, because I genuinely wanted to know. And perhaps there needs to be a little more convincing if that's the route we want to take. But right now, no one's into it. Regardless of us not spending money by passing this resolution, obviously the plan is to spend a good chunk of money. And today, the members don't want to do that.
Clerk Perillo, did we get any other input from members? What was the general?
We did. There were 2 or 3 circulated today to the board late today that were in the positive. That were positive.
But that said, is there harm in hearing what talents and resources exist out there? So the thing that we did, which might be a little different, and thanks in part to you, and I appreciate your suggestion, is we let the residents in the community know, right? Like the members knew. So I didn't know if, I didn't even, I was happy to send that out. I wanted to hear what the members thought. Not sure all the members wrote back to Sylvia or I, which was the request. I did hear some feedback from others. But bottom line right now is this is cost neutral. This is a negative cost to us.
Mayor,
and to move forward, yes, we absolutely would need membership and resident agreement to move forward with a plan for a strategic plan.
And I agree, there wouldn't be financial harm to the village or the country club, but there would be reputational harm to this board for not listening to the members. And we added this to the agenda without going to a work session first, which I've been informed is very important at the beginning of this meeting. But it also didn't go through the Board of Governors or the CCMAC. So we don't have the buy-in to move forward on this. And I think that's important.
I would want to add just one observation. It appears to me, based on the responses that I personally received, that the resolution or the email that went out was misinterpreted as a request to spend the money.
Yeah.
That is not what this is. It's a request for information. So I see no harm in requesting the information. Any action that's taken that is going to cost the membership anything is, you know, I would argue a long way off based on how quickly things move around here. But so I see no harm in this resolution.
Also assuming you get any responses. Requests for interest are sometimes not responded to. And it's the difference between getting some mail that says, hey, we'd like to help you out, or not. And then vetting who's the best to do it. Is it the CMAC and the country club manager? Maybe that is. I would, in the comments we heard this evening, stemmed more around, that's not what that money should be used for. So we're not using that money.
Right.
Yeah, I think the 50,000 definitely scared some people, and there were concerns about spending that amount of money.
Do you think it's understood now that it wasn't a resolution to spend money?
I understand it. I would suggest that if it does pass, maybe we can send out a follow-up to email saying this is what we're looking at, maybe a little more clarification that we're not spending money.
Couldn't we motion to refer? Motion to refer it to the CCMAC or the BOG?
You're Trustee Hill, you could motion.
I'm asking a point of inquiry. Would it be possible to motion to refer it to either advising committees
To advise you what?
if they think this is a good idea?
I guess. Or you could, and the flip side's also true, you can get the request for interest, and if there's interest, forward the interest to them and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea?
That seems like a
Save
sensible
a step.
approach.
And time, and not kicking the can down the road.
I mean, we've relied on, we've asked for a number of things from a number of participants in this process. This is the first time in my history here as a member of the golf club where we didn't vote on rates until January. I would like to see a more efficient process. And I think this is probably, you know, this is really not even process related. It's just a request for information. I think what council has suggested in terms of let's get the information and give it to the appropriate committees to incorporate in their thinking, the North Side Committee, et cetera. So that makes sense to me.
I just don't understand why we wouldn't try to get buy-in on step one. And if you're serious about making this happen, this is governing. You can't lead if no one's following you. Like, we can't just, this is not we're not the board of a country club, take it or leave it. We have a waiting list of X number of people, you know, like it's where you still have to answer to our constituents, the residents, and the country club members.
Wouldn't we be elongating it if we now give it to them?
Yes.
To action?
Yes, I fully acknowledge that, yes.
Is that a good idea?
I don't know, but I would like to hear from the CCMAC and the Board of Governors.
Is there a
Anyone
motion
here from the
required for
CCMAC or the Board of Governors?
And the members that came tonight were opposed to it. And we don't have a budget line for it, right? Even if
This
like,
doesn't
we don't
cost
have-
any money. We're not
I know,
budgeting
but
anything for it.
eventually, the plan is to spend money. So, and we've already put a number out there.
That's where they make the decision, the CCMAC
Where they
and the
make
BOG.
advisory recommendations.
Right. Like, where, you know, I
See,
don't know.
maybe he's right. Maybe we just give it to the CCMAC and the Board of Governors and let them have at it. And then they can come in and report to us their progress. I think Kyle's right.
Or they can just tell us if they want it or not.
What do
don't
you
even
mean?
have to do. They can just tell us if they.
Someone's
endorse
gotta run with the ball, Kyle.
EOI.
Want
to help?
Someone's got to run with the ball.
Yeah, they can just tell us if they endorse the EOI or not.
Endorse getting the information?
So,
I think it's been fully debated, and I believe there's a motion and a second to go out for an EOI.
Okay.
Why don't we start there?
Okay.
Or if any other trustee wants to make a different motion before we vote on it, but I think debating it any further, I think everyone's made their positions quite clear.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. Those in favor?
How about a roll call vote, Mayor?
Sure.
Trustee Hill?
Nay.
Trustee Ugrinsky?
Aye.
Trustee Giuliano?
Aye.
Trustee Laux?
Nay.
Mayor?
Aye.
That passes 3-2.
Thank you.
Resolution number 16, 12925. Resolution authorizing the solicitation of a request for proposals to firms that have the capability to maintain a comprehensive geographical information system, GIS, of the municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4, of the Village of Port Jefferson. We have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody understand what that is? You know what you're voting for?
Okay.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution number 17, 12925, resolution authorizing the attendance of Pat Sullivan at the New England Regional Turfgrass Conference and Show in Providence, Rhode Island, from March 4th, 2025 through March 6th, 2025, at a registration fee of $175, a continuing education course fee of $205 total for 2 courses, and a lodging cost of $402.50, with all meal, travel, and mileage reimbursements in accordance with the Village of Port Jefferson travel policy. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 18, 12925, resolution amending resolution number 7, 121824, to correct the hourly wage rate of Fire Marshal Todd Stumpf to be $26.85 per hour, effective December 26th, 2024. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 19, 12925, resolution approving a salary of $25,000 per year for Jim Burke as assessor for the Village of Port Jefferson, effective December 31st, 2024. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 20, 12925, resolution accepting with regret the resignation of senior planner Deirdre Ryan, effective January 30th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a quick note about Deirdre. She's a wonderful person. Brought some real logic, calm demeanor, respectful dialogue into her role as senior planner. She'll be missed. She's going to PW Grocer into the private sector, so good for her. And we'll miss her. And we're in the process of replacing, going through the list, and here comes Director Freeling. He knows he'll miss her most. So, yeah, so we're going to miss Deirdre, but we'll welcome her back with open arms if she ever decides to come back and is on the list. So, okay, that motion carried.
Thank you. Resolution 21, 12925, resolution approving the event application submitted by Barbara Ransom on behalf, excuse me, on behalf of the Greater Port Jefferson Chamber of Commerce for the use and closure of a portion of Main Street and the use and closure of a portion of East Broadway for the annual Easter Parade, and also for the use of a portion of Harborfront Park for an egg hunt from 12 o'clock noon through 4 o'clock p.m. on April 19th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, just to note, this is a program that was typically held on Easter Sunday.
Right.
And is moving to a Saturday, because I believe they feel like it's a better day for this kind of thing. And they won't be interfering with people's church activities and whatnot. So just a point of note, interest. Okay, motion carried.
Thank you. Resolution number 22-12925, resolution approving the request of Dr. Matthew Sclafani on behalf of the New York Horseshoe Crab Monitoring Network of the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County to utilize the parking area off Crystal Brook Hollow Road with the purpose of collecting data related to horseshoe crabs per the attached 2025 Horseshoe Crab Survey Schedule. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 23-12925, resolution scheduling a public hearing for 6:00 p.m. on February 26, 2025 at Village Hall, 121 West Broadway, Port Jefferson, New York, 11777, regarding a proposed amendment to Chapter 245, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 61, Schedule 13, Parking Prohibited at All Times, and a proposed amendment to Chapter 245, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 62, Schedule 14, No Standing of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? I'd just like to get a little bit more information from our Public Safety Commissioner and our liaison to the school district to know what conversations they've had with the school district about this initiative, and which I think is a very important resolution. I think it's a very important public hearing to have, because people come to me on a regular basis saying how crazy this intersection is. But at what point have you all had discussions with and talked about the opportunity for this to be a viable option?
Well, personally, I met with the superintendent, and we've discussed this many times, and they feel that a no-standing situation on the opposite side of the road from the high school would be very beneficial for drop-off and pickup in the afternoons.
And they talked to the parents about it?
I don't know if they've talked to the parents about it.
Okay, so we're going to be having a public hearing, inviting parents who drop their kids off and stand and use that area every single day, twice a day.
And they're going to be very upset about it and opposed to it, but I think the safety factor far outweighs.
I'm not sure what, I'm not projecting what will happen and what the outcome will be, but I'm just wondering if there's been any communication to the parents or the people who utilize that area for this purpose. Have we had any discussions with families or residents about this? Because we are proposing this, not the district.
Well, we've brought it up a number of times in the work sessions, Trustee Laux, and I believe it was the neighbors who requested this, right? The
Oh, yeah.
the homeowners nearby or on those streets.
3 neighbors, 3 people.
But it was a school district that was really pushing for this.
The school district is pushing for a way to make it safer during arrival time and during dismissal time. The suggestion came up, there are 2 suggestions that they came up with. One was the no standing, and the other was the assignment of 2 code officers during those times to assist in the crazy U-turns, double parking, so on and so forth that takes place over there. So if I'm a parent and I've been used to dropping my child off, am I going to be upset? Probably. But there's a big expense for transportation. There's busing available for these youngsters, which to me is the safety issue is the most important part of it.
Are there alternatives being proposed for the drop-off and pickup? Is the district working on that? Are you working with them on that? Are you working,
The district, looked into a drop-off, but the drop-off would be down by the tennis courts. And the only way to exit out of there would be to go up through the school, and they can't pass the school buses when the school buses are there. So that idea went out the window.
Are we ready for this, do you think? We ready for this public hearing?
Are you asking me specifically, or?
I'm asking the board, are we ready for this? There's a discussion, right, on this resolution. Are we ready for it?
Mayor, I think the board has to be cognizant of the fact that for a first time, you're going to not allow parents to drop their students off where in perpetuity they were allowed to with no other alternative. So where does that current issue move to, because it will move somewhere? They're not just going to say, okay, great, you could just take the bus now, even though you can't get on a bus, or I have to pick you up early, or you have to get dropped off. What is the alternative, and where is that going to move the students to? And if the school doesn't have a plan for that?
Does the district does the Board of Education have a component of safety that's been brought into this conversation? A safety board or something like that?
Well, no. No.
No?
The drop-off, if we go with no standing on the opposite side, the drop-off is on the school side. They won't be allowed to be sitting in their cars on the opposite side of the road.
No, I guess what I was asking is, the school board, I know you've spoken with the
school board has been-
superintendent.
Well,
And the
three
school board has a subcommittee, a safety subcommittee?
I don't know that. I don't think there's any safety committee. They have a safety meeting once a month.
Oh, they do?
Mm-hmm.
Who attends that?
All of their administrators, I think Kathy Ann Snaden, myself, superintendent.
So was this discussed in that
No.
forum?
No.
Okay.
I just want to be cognizant of, I don't know if you're solving a problem or just creating a new one somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm worried
That's
about
all.
that too.
Yeah.
Should we have maybe a work session around that, or
I don't thi- I don't-
coordinate
I don't think
with
it's-
the
I don't think
district
it's
on
your,
that?
Trustee Urginski, I don't think it's your plan to solve for the school district.
Yeah.
They're asking you to solve their problem, and I don't think it solves the problem. I think it just moves it further. It's just going to create that same issue somewhere else.
I don't think we're not wanting to help solve it. I think we're trying to collaborate more with them on solutions that involve the parents involved. Like, there has to be some component of awareness of the families who utilize, in addition to getting feedback from the people who live on those streets, which are, I agree with them 100%. But so I'm wondering if this is a great resolution. It's a public hearing that's needed, I think. But the question is it needed right now? Do we table this? Do we vote on it? Or do we table it and hold it until there's, I don't know how this board is going to vote, but I have concerns that we're creating a situation that we can't resolve amicably.
It also feels like it feels like the right approach to this could be to do this collaboratively with the district rather than, just proactively scheduling a public hearing when I certainly don't feel informed enough to.
Or also, trustee, if those cars aren't lining up on this side of the road, they're probably not stopping from dropping their child off. Where are they lining up? Where are they going to wait? So it affects 3 houses now. If they all wait on this side of the street, does it affect 12 houses? Those are things we have to consider, because it's not solving a problem. It's moving a problem.
So does this board want to vote on this resolution, or?
I'm going to make a motion to table this.
Okay.
I second that.
Is that the process? All right. We have a motion to table with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Let's talk to the school district, let's
Well, more work needs to be done.
see what proposals they come up with.
Or how to engage their
It's
community.
It's not the school district, it's.
I know.
It's the.
How do they engage the
It's
community?
the
Yeah,
parents.
yes.
To
How do they
understand the
engage
solutions
communities?
better?
Yes.
You know? And the parents have to be engaged on that one.
They could make us the bad guys.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, that's exactly what they're doing.
In the meantime, we don't want anybody to get hurt either.
Right,
So
right.
it's
It's a safety issue, yeah.
okay. Clerk Pearl?
Thank you. Resolution number 24, 12925, resolution scheduling a public hearing for 6 o'clock PM on April 9th, 2025, at Village Hall, 121 West Broadway, Port Jefferson, New York, 11777, regarding the Village of Port Jefferson tentative annual budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 25, 12925, resolution hiring Parker Moore as an intern in the Building and Planning Department at an hourly wage rate of $16.50 per hour, effective February 10th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did we miss 25, or did that move?
That was 25.
That was 25.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm working off the draft. Sorry, go on.
Resolution number 26, 12925, resolution approving the check register. Excuse me.
Sorry.
What were the wrong dates? Yeah, 25. Excuse me, resolution approving the check register and warrants dated 1/25/2025 as presented by Treasurer Gafka and as approved by Claims Auditor Goodwin. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion.
Okay.
I would like one warrant excluded, and that is the TBR payment. Maybe we can take this offline,
Yes.
please, but just, so I would like to approve all but that one warrant.
So the process would be, trustee, that we would approve the check register and warrants, and then internally, we would put a hold on that,
Okay,
okay?
great. In that case,
So we don't hold up the others.
yeah,
Okay?
in that case, motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But if we're discussing, can I ask why? Why you want to exclude that one?
Yeah, there's no contract or supporting documentation for it.
Good, okay. Then aye.
Resolution number 27, 12,
Clerk, can I submit
Yes.
my
Yeah.
resolution? Thank you, I appreciate it.
so this is resolution number 27, then?
It's a request to add a resolution that's going to require a motion and a second, and before you number it.
Okay.
Motion.
Second.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's 28 now.
27, or 29, or 31, pick one. Just make it add on and make it number 30.
No, it's not going to work that way.
Okay.
Resolution number 27, 12925. Resolution authorizing and requiring the village clerk to immediately release to the public via the village website the Incorporated Village of Port Jefferson Board of Ethics Advisory Opinion Number 101-2025, issued on January 20th, 2025, concerning a letter issued by members of the Village Board of Trustees to the Rockefeller Institute of Government. All trustees are also authorized to disseminate said opinion. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? So this is related to the request from the Board of Trustees to seek an ethics opinion on a couple of things, which they did, and it came back, and it was a great process. I think the process worked, and we learned some things about how to use village resources and really related to public meetings law and that kind of thing, where trustees should, if they're going to do something in unison, the board should conduct their business in public. But I also found that the ethics board, in this opinion, really didn't have any kind of, like, there was no wrong done, which is great. So, but what it did reveal is that, I think it was educational in nature, which is really what the whole exercise, from my perspective, was. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't being paranoid by saying, hey, we need to share this letter with our lawyer first, and our clerk to make sure we're in process. Not saying that the content of the letter was not relevant and significant and important. I just was unclear on the process. So we all have process things that we learn about and come across every now and then. The only thing I would request on this resolution that I feel is redundant is the last sentence. I'm not sure it's necessary, but I agree with the whole entire rest of the resolution.
Mayor, if I may, just as a point of legality, if this public body seeks an opinion in public from your ethics board, and that ethics board issues the opinion, it's public by its very nature. So
Agree.
in reference to your request to have a sentence removed, procedurally and legally,
We don't even need a resolution.
none of this is necessary.
Okay.
But no harm, no foul, I guess.
Do we need a resolution? Can
It's a motion and a second, so it's already there.
Okay. All right.
Whether or not you want to change some language, you've asked.
I've asked to remove, we can eliminate that last sentence because it's clearly public, so there's no need for that. But anybody else have any comments on this?
Yeah, I do. So while I agree with the content of the letter, I patently disagree, and will go on record saying so, that I disagree with and am very unhappy with the process that was used to generate that.
The ethics opinion?
No. No, the original letter, the topic of the ethics discussion.
Noted. All right, are we ready to vote?
Mayor, did you make a motion to amend the language?
I'm making a motion to amend the language of the resolution as it is drafted to eliminate the last sentence.
Because it's understood that it's already
It's
authorized.
unnecessary.
It's public.
Yeah.
That needs a second,
Second.
and that needs a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now
And
we
we vote
need
on the underlying
a resolution to accept the
resolution.
resolution. A motion to accept the resolution. Do we have a motion?
We already got that.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And I second.
All in favor of accepting Resolution 27-12925?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 28-12925, resolution to enter into executive session at 9:12 p.m. to discuss the contract negotiations and the specific performance of a particular employee. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're voting when we come back. So, Jeff. Okay, welcome back to the Board of Trustees meeting. It is 10:23. We're returning, and we are coming out of executive session. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we have two resolutions, Clerk Perillo?
Yes, we do, Mayor, thank you. We have resolution number 30 is a resolution authorizing Mayor Shepro to sign an order on on consent with the Suffolk County Department of Health Services on behalf of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have resolution number 31, 12925, resolution hiring the following part-time employees for the Village of Port Jefferson Code Enforcement Department effective January 30th, 2025. Code Enforcement Supervisor Kevin Cooper at an hourly pay rate of $33.65 per hour, not to exceed $35,000 per calendar year. Assistant Code Enforcement Supervisor Jason Fassler at an hourly pay rate of $25 per hour. And Assistant Code Enforcement Supervisor Anthony Flamia at an hourly pay rate of $25 per hour. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have resolution number 32, resolution to close the January 29th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Trustees at 10:25 PM.
Can I just say something first?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to acknowledge you, Clerk Perillo, and this board for taking the time and working through the search and hiring process of the three new code enforcement personnel that we've hired today. So great gratitude, and the time that you put in and the work you put in and the engagement of this board is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do we have a motion? Did you say to close the?
Yes, Mayor, I did.
Did you read that already? I'm sorry, I
That's o-
interrupted you.
That's fine. So we have a motion and a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.